Mormon space wives. Let's create lives. Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body. He looks good. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Space sex. Space sex. Magic underwear fitting tight. Magic underwear is feeling right. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Lords of Cola. I would like to have intimacies with you on the planet of Naboo. Mormon space wives. Magic underwear. Where? Right there. Mormon space wives. Let's create lives. Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body. He looks good. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Space sex. Space sex. Magic underwear fitting tight. Magic underwear is feeling right. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Lords of Cola. I would like to have intimacies with you on the planet of Naboo. Mormon space wives. Magic underwear. Where? Right there. Mormon space wives. Space error.
The engine is starting up.
Mormon space wives.
Let's create lives.
Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body.
He looks good. He looks good.
Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Magic underwear fitting tight. Magic underwear is feeling right.
Space wise.
Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Lords of Cola.
I would like to have intimacies with you
On the planet of Naboo. Space wives.
Let's create
Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body.
He looks good. He looks good. He looks good. He looks good. Good, good, good.
a subway shop. Oh, 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 oh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. We got wedding coitus in a subway shop. Oh, oh. We got wedding coitus in a subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. We got wedding coitus in a subway shop. Oh, 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 oh.
Oh, yeah. Y'all ready for this? It's that time again, y'all. Open forum.
I got married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. We got wedding conjoined in a subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on the tube. Oh, oh, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Funko, oh, 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 oh. We got wedding.
All right, welcome everybody. That's enough of my Aretha Franklin pipes. My Aretha Franklins. Yo, you call me Aretha Franklin. I got a wreath full of Franklins. Jamie must be watching a movie in there. I hear gunshots. Either that or the ops done took Jamie out. Pop, pop. Brat-tat-tat. My things go brat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Welcome, everybody. It's a late night stream. Lee Hines, what's on your minds? Lee Hines, unmute, dog. Tell me what's up, dude. Set me straight. Put me in my place.
So, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So I found your YouTube channel like a couple months ago, and I'm just trying to understand some of the things that I've seen. Can we just on a base level, just before we even get into it, can we just agree that the scriptures are the word of God? And I understand, I've seen your position, the what do you call it? Deuterocanonical?
The doodoo cannon. You talking about the doodoo cannon?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand, all right? You believe that and just correct me if I'm wrong, all right? You believe that we cannot be saved without being members of the Eastern Orthodox Church. They break it down for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Orthodox Church is the mystical body of Christ, so I don't make determinations of any individual person's destiny. But if you are saved, then it is by some means by which God joins you to that body. So we don't accept the confessions of these other groups as legitimately Christian confessions because they're all variations of some schism or some split at various points in church history.
Okay. And again, I'm always going to preface this, what I'm about to say, because I don't want to misrepresent you. You don't believe that faith is enough to be saved. Like we have to do things.
Yeah, I think the New Testament teaches that faith alone is not enough to achieve final salvation. Salvation isn't a one-time action in the Orthodox view.
So, and that's where I got confused listening to you the past couple of months is, and honestly, Jay, respectfully, I felt a little bit gaslit when you say that, because as I'm reading Ephesians, and I've watched you say this to people when it says, "For by grace are you saved," like past tense, like. That's where I'm just reading the text, and I don't understand, and that's just one verse. Like I understand. I've watched you do this. So help me understand when it says saved. Like, are you telling me that?
Yeah, so I can be saved, I'm being saved, and I will be saved when I persevere. So there's no conflict between the verse that you read and my position, because there's a three-tiered aspect to the past, ongoing, and final perseverance. All of those things constitute, quote, being saved. So if I'm in the life of the church, I was baptized, I am saved. But that doesn't mean that I will necessarily persevere until the end. That's why Jesus says those who persevere until the end are saved.
So in Ephesians, when it says the Spirit is the guarantee.
Yeah, as long as I don't grieve the Spirit and leave the faith, like Hebrews 6 says you can do.
So you don't think that that's talking about unbelievers? Because it says that for those who left us were never truly of us.
Well, John says that, but he's talking about false brethren who infiltrated the church, false teachers who are antichrist. In Hebrews
Right.
6, it's talking about a different situation. It talks about people who were enlightened and did partake of the Spirit and did taste the life of the world to come, and they fell away. So two different types of people.
But Jesus says it again, though. This is where I lose you, bro. Jesus says it again. He says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." That same language.
You're picking, yeah, but that doesn't mean there aren't other groups of people that did know him, that did depart from him. Did Judas know him?
So let me back up. I want to make sure I'm following you. Okay. Yes, Judas absolutely knew him.
Okay, so you have to qualify the knowing there, just like I'm doing, right?
Say it again.
So then you have to qualify, quote, knowing there, just like I'm doing.
So, but this is where I'm getting confused, bro. Just hang on. He absolutely 100% knew him. But can we say that he believed in him? That's my question.
So in other words, these verses require interpretation. And one of the things that we have to do when we interpret verses is to make them all work together. In other words, we can't pick and choose the ones and ignore the other ones, right? So that's why we have to take account of the fact that there are verses like in Hebrews 6 that say that you can partake of the Holy Spirit and fall away. So that right there shows you that your account of these verses is inadequate.
So okay. So let's do it like this. What your position is not describing the actual reality that I'm living. All right. And what I mean is that you're telling me that I can fall away, but then I see verses that say, well, the angels are rejoicing. So you're telling me the angels rejoiced over me. Hey, oh.
Well, I mean, like, do angels have omniscience? The angels don't know if you're going to persevere.
But the scripture says that they rejoice. So are they rejoice? So let me back up.
Did you not hear what I said?
Just to be clear.
I think you just want to, you're not listening and you just want to talk. I used to have your view, man. I had your view 30 years ago. I understand where you're coming from.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you very carefully.
Well,
I'm just trying to make. I'm just trying to make.
what
I'm
did I
trying to
just
make
say?
sense of it.
If you're listening, then what did I just say?
You're saying, hey, we have to be consistent. We have to put all.
And
of
what
these
did I
things
say
together.
I answered the angel question. What did I say?
They're not omniscient. I understand.
Okay,
And
so
but that's not.
so your argument assumes that they're omniscient and they know that you're going to achieve final perseverance. But how they don't know that? How do they know that?
So okay.
So your arguments are just
get
assuming
that.
your
I get
position.
that. Say it again.
The arguments that you're making are really just assuming that your position is the case and that that's the only way to read a lot of these verses. And I'm trying to tell you that, for example, in the gospel, when Jesus gives the parable of the sower, in that parable, you have some of the seeds spring up to new life and they die. Okay. How does that fit in your model?
The seeds spring up and die.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
so-
parable of the sower.
There was a question I was going to ask you, but before we touch on that, there was a question I was going to ask you. Because again, this is new to me. Okay, so what we're saying, what you're essentially saying, is that God became a man, humiliated himself, lived a perfect life, was betrayed, whipped, brutally
Okay,
beaten.
you don't have to do
butt naked
this.
On the cross.
Come on, just make the argument. You don't have to do storytelling. We don't need storytelling. Just make the argument.
I'm just no, bro. Remember, this is my first time dealing with you.
So
like,
what's the argument, man?
the argument is, you're telling me that he went through all of that for salvation I can lose. It doesn't compute. It's my argument. That's what I like. He was humiliated. He was battered, whipped, beaten, humiliated, butt naked on a cross for salvation.
So, well, let's put it
that
this
I
way.
can lose.
So you
That's
don't believe
crazy
that
to
you
me.
possess free will? Did you lose free will when you converted?
So, no, I didn't lose free will, but I was a complete villain, man. I used to deal with drugs. What I'm saying to you is that when the Holy Spirit entered my life and changed me.
Yeah, I'm not denying it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not denying
Okay.
that.
Well, let me finish. When he changed me, when he changed my life, and took away the desires of the things that I wanted to do, there was a supernatural change.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, and what you're explaining to us out here in internet world is that can be lost, and that is not matching with the actual reality, what I'm experiencing every single day. Like, yes, I'm not perfect 100%. I fail all the time.
Let me
What
ask you a
I'm saying
question.
Is that
Okay, let me ask you.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done, bro. Just 10 more seconds. Every day I fail in thought, word, or deed, but the spirit in me is renewing me. Go ahead and say what you got to say.
Okay, so Jesus says many things that are a problem for this position, one of which would be, if you don't forgive your brethren, your heavenly Father will not forgive you. Obviously, he's not talking to atheists. He's talking to people that are his disciples and followers. So is it the case that you can be a true follower of Jesus and decide to not forgive somebody who wrongs you, and then they ask for forgiveness, you decide not to? Isn't it the case that your heavenly Father will not forgive you?
I don't agree with that, and here's why. Because
you don't agree with
Colossians says.
Okay, well then you. So look, hey.
So I'll be totally transparent right now. Let me jump on that train. I'll be totally transparent. I have an alt with my physical blood brother right now. We don't speak.
Right.
All right. I'm struggling with even looking at him because of an argument that we had recently.
I had an argument with my brother recently. I'm in the same situation.
All right, so you feel me, okay? So I'm struggling. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to look at him. Yes, I can forgive him, but I don't want a relationship with him. I know that sin is on the cross. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that. And see, this is another thing, and just bear with me. Okay. This is another thing that troubles me about this is that people think that when you say once saved, always saved, you're giving people permission to be pedophiles. No. All of this other
Well,
stuff.
you are
When the
though,
Holy
but
Spirit, when the Holy Spirit comes in you, he convicts you of sin. And you can't live in sin. So what I'm saying is the issue I have with my
okay.
brother.
Again,
Yeah, I'm struggling.
all right,
You know,
man. Look,
'cause-
I get it. I appreciate your call. I appreciate the questions. They are good questions, but uh again, I mean, Jesus says you gotta. I'm not saying there's the statement is not saying you have to be a doormat. Okay, if your relative, I'm not saying this was my situation, but if your relative is doing something criminal or trying to do something beyond a certain limit, yeah, you have to have limits and you have to not have those people in your life. That's a different situation from whether you forgive a person, especially if they ask for forgiveness and you do not forgive them, and that that's when Jesus is saying, then the Heavenly Father is not going to forgive you. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to like let criminals run your life or something like that. That's a different situation. But what he says in that passage is that if you do not forgive, then the Heavenly Father will not forgive you. So setting aside your own personal situation or my personal situation or whatever, the passage is clearly saying that his disciples can, if they choose to not forgive people, also not be forgiven, which is a problem for a lot of these types of once saved, always saved positions. And there's many more passages that are a problem too. George, but thank you for the call. George, what's up? Hey, Jamie, could you make me espresso?
Hey, Jay.
What's on your mind, man?
I was just going to say the only reason I called in, even though I'm an agreeer, is that I've had many a conversation similar to the one that you just had, where I bring up the parable of the unforgiving servant. And like I was in a talk with this one Baptist guy who probably, if I'm being honest, like knew more scripture than me. But it's weird when you bring up parables, they don't know parables. It's like it's very
with Bitcoin. Strategy is
when I told him like, hey, this parable says literally in the beginning, the kingdom of heaven is like this, and then finishes by saying, so too my heavenly Father will do to you.
Right.
And he was just like totally lost. He had no idea how to interpret that, and it was just very odd to me that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was an evangelical, I had struggled with parables because some of them just didn't line up with the theology, so I wasn't really sure what to do with them. So I totally feel you on that, but it's difficult to express all as well the fuller sort of Orthodox conception of salvation, because so many Protestants think of it like it's this one time event where you pray the prayer and you have a experience, and then you don't like the things that you previously liked. So, and I'm not denying that, but there's more to it than that, and we see that throughout all the other passages. So nobody's denying that you had an experience, or that I mean, when I was a Protestant, I know that when I first started reading the Bible, I genuinely felt a change of heart. I genuinely wanted to act differently, do things differently. And I don't think that we have to say that that's not the work of the Holy Spirit, but it's also perhaps presumptuous to think that, well, maybe the Holy Spirit's calling you to orthodoxy, right? Like maybe that's also the next step that you need to take beyond just being introduced to some of the basic ideas. And the Bible's a gigantic, multiple thousand page, 3,000 page book, depending on how it's, typeset, covering, hundreds and hundreds of years of events and theology and different types of literature. So there's a lot going on. And it's kind of, I think, presumptuous to think that, oh, well, that all just boils down to like confess Jesus as the Lord, confess that you're a sinner, and then pray the sinner's prayer. Just think how like it's very Americanized. That would only exist in the Billy Graham Americanized ethos. This idea that, well, just prepackage the salvation as this very simple, repeat a few lines after me thing. There, you're good, dude. And that type of idea is so damaging to the religion as a whole that it's just on so many levels. It gives the people delusion. It gives atheists ammo. It makes atheists think that the religion is ridiculous. It's nothing at all like the Christianity of the first 1,000 years of the church. And so it's just very difficult even to begin with how to approach um, that question, given that it just doesn't even take into account so many New Testament and Old Testament passages that warn us of apostasy. Why would there be so many warnings of apostasy if there is no such thing as apostasy? And really, that's the central problem, I think, for once saved, always saved, is that when I was first I was Baptist and believed in once saved, always saved, but then I went into Calvinism, and that sort of reshuffled that idea for me. But in both positions, I believed in a form of once saved, always saved. And really, what kind of clinched it for me was going through a process of struggling with the doctrine of the invisible church. And when I could no longer believe in the doctrine of the invisible church, a lot of these issues kind of also fell away. And I realized that every time God has a relationship with his people, there are stipulations. Even the Abrahamic covenant, people don't realize this, has stipulations. I'm going from memory, but I want to say it's either Genesis 17 or 22, where God actually does mention stipulations. And people think, oh, but Paul says he contrasts Abraham and the Abrahamic covenant to the Mosaic covenant. But actually, both covenants have stipulations. Now, Paul contrasts them because there are different emphases between the Abrahamic covenant and the Mosaic covenant, but both covenants have stipulations. In fact, God says to Abraham, if you and your descendants are also faithful to walk in my ways, et cetera, et cetera. So this idea that some Protestants have, some Baptists have, that the Abrahamic covenant was purely one-sided, unilateral, there were no expectations or stipulations on Abraham and his descendants, is completely false. And by the way, none of the ancient Hebrew texts interpreted that covenant that way either. So I'm not saying it's true because of how they interpret it. I'm just saying that it's a very novel interpretation that comes really way late in the radical Reformation. And I'm speaking there of like the Baptists. So where did we get this idea? Well, it's just kind of made up by people who are 5, 6 levels of schism departed from the ancient church, the church of the first 1,000 years, which is the church of the second 1,000 years, which is the Orthodox Church. So there's really, you don't actually, guys, you don't have to go very deep these days into patristic theology to figure out which of the churches that's out there is still teaching the same stuff. Okay. You really have only got Roman Orthodoxy, because it's not going to be Anglican. So when we go over here to this talk that I did, for those that want to bypass, I didn't realize this talk was getting a whole lot of views, but every now and then, I guess one of the live streams can slip into the algorithm and continue to get views. There's not many of them that do this. I don't really know what is up with it, but the talk that I did on, shit, where'd it go? Maybe I already took it down. Let's see. I did a talk on Yaroslav Pelikan's Volume 1, because I found all my old notes on that. I read that back in like, I don't know, 2003, I think. And that has approaching 100,000 views. Yeah, we're getting up into 76,000 views here.
Cut off.
And so if you want an analysis of the first 600 years, and this is the Pelikan text, back in 2020, I did a talk, part 1 and part 2, I want to say 3 or 4 hour talk, going through that book. It's a very readable book. I recommend everybody read it, but if you can't read it, there's a good introduction to overview. And this is a typical book that's used in seminaries, and it's not Protestant. I mean, he wrote it when he was Lutheran and ended up becoming Orthodox, but it's used in quite a few seminaries. So I would say, you don't have to go get a PhD to figure out what the church of the first 1,000 years taught. Zora, what's up?
Hey Jay, how we doing, brother?
Good, what's up?
So quick, 2 questions for you. First of all, thank you and God bless, man. First one, kind of a pop culture one for you. I host these daily Bible studies on here, and I put like a daily verse that I choose for that day. And I go off of the Sefer version of the Bible, which tries to use the sacred names to restore the sacred names of the prophets, the books. So it goes closer to the ancient Hebrew, or at least it tries to. And I'm in Isaiah now, and the way that my version of the Bible has Isaiah written is called Yeshayahu.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of Judaizing. There's nothing about that that's more faithful to the revelation. So we use the Septuagint. The Orthodox Study Bible uses the Septuagint. We're not interested in those modern Judaized sort of versions of trying to make the apostles. I remember when I was like 19, I bought one of those one time where I was like, oh, I need like the Jewish New Testament because that's more faithful. No, it's not. Horn, what's up? What matters is what the apostles use. Well, the apostles use the Septuagint. So why are the apostles using the Greek translation of the Old Testament if somehow what we know of as the Masoretic text is like the real authentic one? It's the same attitude like Roman Catholics who think that Latin is like magically a more Christian language. And if you say the prayers in Latin, it burns the demons rather than saying it in English. It's just superstitious. What's up, man?
Hey, hello. My question is in regards to the structure in the first century church. My question would be basically like, do we actually know how, if the church, because there were different churches in the first century, do we actually know how connected they were? Like, did they have a clear idea of what authority was, how authority worked exactly?
Yeah, because it comes out of the Pauline epistles. And then when we read the post-apostolic fathers like Ignatius, he says, where the bishop is, there's the church. So episcopacy was already present in the New Testament in Acts 1, verse 8. It's the very term that's used. Let another take his office as episcopate when Judas dies. And Paul's letters to Timothy and Titus also give us a very clear picture of a hierarchical structure.
Okay.
And that structure is modeled on the Old Testament of high priest, Levite. So bishop, priest, deacon.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, that was it.
Okay, cool. Do you have like what's the best, like most exhaustive book on this?
There is an Orthodox text on it, but it tends to go out of print. And but I'm sure you can find plenty of lectures on like the Orthodox view of apostolic succession. So that kind of there's tons of Orthodox content now that discusses this, but let me see if that book is still in print that I'm thinking of.
Sure, thank you.
I think it's this one here. Let me see. Yeah, this is it. Apparently you can still buy it at Ancient Faith. It's more of a small book. It's not a full-on book. It's called Apostolic Succession by Father Gregory Rogers. So I would recommend that little treatise there.
All right, cool. Gregory Rogers. Okay.
And then also, you can read the post-apostolic fathers' letters, and you see it pretty clearly. We read Ignatius and Clement, and it's pretty clear that it's not Protestant congregationalism or whatever. Luca, what's up? Van Wallen says for $5, some content creators are saying that people should not be watching long live streams from Orthodox content creators. What do you think of that? My guess would be that's envy in some cases. And, just because a person becomes Orthodox doesn't mean they're not susceptible to a lot of the same issues. I'm sure we're going to see quite a bit of envy tomorrow when the biggest podcast out there when that show drops tomorrow. So what's up, man?
Hey, so since today's Vidal done, I guess just curious what you have to say about Serbia and Serbia's role in European Balkan geopolitics, besides
I mean, I've read some books on the bombing of Serbia, but I'm not an expert in Serbia, so that's a broad question. What do you mean?
Like with NATO and what, like the NATO empire and the NATO bombing of Serbia.
Yeah, I mean, we have some older talks that we've done on that where we talked about the CIA's role in that, the targeting of Milosevic, how they, sort of, in my opinion, they probably concocted the mass killing accusations against Milosevic. That doesn't mean that was a saint or something like that, but um, anybody that NATO attacks and goes after, I tend to think they were not the bad guys these days, because now I know what they wanted to do long term. Now that I've read a lot of those, NATO CIA guys, it's like, yeah, we want to extend, the Fortune 100, Fortune 500. We want to, make it gay, dude. So, but I remember also there's some good sections, I think, and they did this the same way they did all the other ones. They did in Serbia. They did Otpor, which was the color revolution with the fist and all that. Unless I'm mixing up Serbia with, no, I think that's right. They wouldn't have to do a color revolution in Poland. So it's Serbia that had Otpor. That was all where one of the first places they tested out the Gene Sharp model of color revolution with the Einstein Institute, which is just CIA stuff about the way that they would do regime change versus the older models of regime change that we covered in Old Boys when it was OSS and CIA adventurism. But there's also, I remember, I think Madeleine Albright discussed years ago before the Clinton stuff that I'm going from memory here. I think Bilderberg had also mentioned that they wanted to do this because there's significant mineral resources that are going on, or excuse me, that it can be mined there. So it's not just geostrategic location, kind of like Ukraine versus Russia, because historically Serbia, is a kind of pro-Russian area. It's the same with Ukraine, split it off of Russia. So that's the geopolitical tactical side of it. But I also remember that I just covered. Oh, no, this is not the right talk. Another podcast that gets into this that I listen to that's very dense. In fact, a lot of this is over my head because this is just so packed with super packed with geopolitical information. This recent Simon Dixon podcast on BTC sessions was really good. And he kind of gave an angle that most people don't give when it comes to these big geopolitical things. So, and his analysis is, what's the economic mechanism behind the Iran war? And that if you look at money flows, you can kind of get a better assessment of actually what's going on with these wars than if you're reading the headlines. And so he argues that kind of stock bros and finance bros and these kinds of people, or like even people super into Bitcoin, can get kind of an edge on what's happening with the wars, because the wars aren't just happening over religion and ideology and ethnicity. They're also happening in regards to money flows and resource attainment and contracts that were already signed ahead of time to, basically say bomb Gaza and then revitalize it, turn it into Trump's, I don't know, casino land or whatever his idea was to do with Kushner and everybody in that area. And so the money flows are a good indicator of what might be going on. And I don't know how Simon Dixon does it, but he's able to tie in like all of these things. Like what did China want Trump to do here, there, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that everything he says is right. I'm just saying that this is seemingly a plausible scenario, because this actually explains why the wars seem to happen. The Iran war seems to happen like in terms of business hours. Like the war stops when business hours stop. And he makes a great point too, as we've highlighted as well, that a lot of people don't understand Trump's announcements. They think, oh, these Trump announcements, they don't make any sense. They're, one day he says the war's on, then he says they've reached a peace deal. Well, Trump and the administration has known going back to forever. This is what we learned in the Rothschild biography. News announcements like that affect the markets. And so you can actually make an announcement and move the money around, because you know that the announcement of the ceasing of the war, the market goes back up. When you announce war, it goes back down. So you can actually trade the market based on these types of announcements. This was literally what the Rothschild family built their empire doing. as we saw from the authorized biography that we covered yesterday. So I would say probably all of the conflicts have this angle. And in fact, Madeleine Albright's statement, I think, about Serbia, way back, was reflecting that very reality. So when you get to the level of sort of Bilderberg and Brzezinski and Kissinger types, and this is what we saw reflected in the Epstein emails with Arena de Rothschild, at that level, you're talking about people that understand that the conflicts are really just opportunities to move money, and the rest of the public has no idea what's going on. So I'm sure there are many, solid analyses of what was going on in Serbia. People are mentioning books in the chat, but I don't know much. I haven't read all those books. I've read 3 books that touched on the Balkan conflicts. So, it's not an area that I'm any kind of expert in. And I don't think Simon Dixon's talking about the Balkans in this very in-depth podcast. But the principles that he mentions are very relevant, especially when he gets into MIC, TIC, and IFC, or FIC. And that's a good classification structure that you'll probably begin to see people using, because it represents the real power centers nowadays as opposed to nation states. So MIC is obviously military industrial complex. He argues that this is really what Israel and Netanyahu represent. There's the financial industrial complex, which is like the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff. And that's, in his analysis, kind of what Trump represented. So a lot of the decisions about Iran are the collusion of those two. And then you have the TIC, which is the tech industrial complex. And so this is the long-term goal of the universal basic income, the, tracking and tracing system, all of that we saw really push during the CUF, the World Economic Forum sort of ideology. So these are kind of the big 3 that are sort of vying for where things are going to go. Obviously, all the AI stuff fits into the tech industrial complex. So his thesis is that these wars are actually just sort of in the meantime skirmishes as everything is moving in the long term towards TIC. So essentially MIC and FIC, financial industrial complex, will eventually sort of cave to TIC, the tech industrial complex. China plays a huge role in that because of what they want with, basically a Chinese internet surveillance style system for the world. Ultimately, if they have the upper hand down the road, he ties that into the Belt and Road Initiative and all that. So anyway, I found this to be very instructive, and I think many of you will as well. But ADI, what's up? ADI? Do you want to unmute, man? ADL, ADI, whatever it is. The ADL. What's up, man? You're not going to talk? All right. Eric, what's up? Welcome, everybody. We're having a good late night discussion here. We've got a nice, cozy audience. If you'd like to send a super chat, feel free to do so through Streamlabs, or you can also do it natively through YouTube if you'd like. You can also call in right there on that X link. Eric, you want to unmute?
Hey, Jay.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Hey, just keep doing what you're doing. We had a new guy this morning at Divine Liturgy. He stayed for coffee hour.
Cool.
Yeah, so second thing, I think probably thousands of other guys have probably asked you already, but will you become a saint already so we can take your name when we get chrismated? I know that's out of your control.
Maybe, yeah, I'll try to keep striving. You guys pray for me. I don't know about all that. I got quite a bit of vices I still got to overcome, but thank you for that. Hopefully that'll happen one day with God's grace. But Cody, what's up? Appreciate you having that positive attitude.
Hey man, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm kind of new into looking into orthodoxy, and I've been trying to answer a lot of questions. I have the big one that I'm wondering. I understand the position on demons is that they're real, like extra, I guess, disembodied beings. But when I try to understand like the mind of a demon, or I guess the Orthodox conception of what a demon thinks, are demons like in Orthodoxy, like pop culture, like do they have like wisdom about like mathematics and can like things like that? Are they intelligent, like really beyond human intelligent beings?
Yeah, we would say that they are fallen angels, and so sometimes the angels are called the intelligences, or they were used to be called the celestial intelligences, that kind of stuff. So when they fell, they did retain, their knowledge and their natural faculties and capabilities, but what was bent was their will, and so their will pretty much just consistently uses the knowledge or the power that they have to undermine humanity because humanity is made in the image of God. According to Christ, one of the reasons that the devil and his angels fell was out of envy. They did not believe that humankind should be saved and should be given a kind of status above the angels that we would be given in the eschaton. So that envy is sort of the root of their malice towards human beings. But when they fell before man did, out of time, because they're beings that exist in an out of time or aeon dimension, you could say. So their testing was in an instant, whereas we as created temporal beings, we exist in time. Our testing occurs over, our lifetime. Their testing was in an instant, so they immediately fell and thus became eternally malicious against God and against His people.
Yeah, I guess my follow up is, if they're, and this is not like a gotcha thing, but like if they're so intelligent, why would they do something so as retarded as to have that rebellion or that rebellious, envious thought, knowing where it would lead? And B, were they in heaven, and in heaven are they able to see sin or like be tempted with envy and sins? Like, can there be sin in heaven? Like, did Satan sin, and that's why he was cast out in heaven?
Right. So the testing of the angels was not necessarily in heaven. It was what's called the angelic realm. It's called the Aeon, Aion. That's the timeless created realm that the church fathers and the Orthodox Church speaks of. So in that sense, no, they weren't like sinning in the throne room of God up in the third heavens or something. They exist in a different dimension or a spiritual reality, which still exists, the Aeon, the timeless created spiritual realm. So they still exist in that dimension or that realm, the spiritual realm, as do the angels and as do perhaps human souls as well. So, and then our souls that reality is also part of this reality. So in our conception, we don't totally understand how the spiritual realm works, but it seems to work in that way according to the Orthodox tradition. So they fell though because it's not a matter of IQ. Right? You can have a super high IQ and be evil. This is the whole idea behind an evil genius. And I'm not saying that you are making this argument, but a lot of times people think, well, if the devil has a high IQ, why did he fall? Well, because virtue is not necessarily equivalent to high IQ. You can be very intelligent and be extremely wicked. So virtue is beyond that. Virtue has to do with using the skills and the tech, the talents that you have rightly. So, so the devil fell from envy and maliciousness, and being envious and malicious can cloud your IQ such that you can have high IQ and get all kinds of crazy things in your head, right? I mean, again, think of the evil genius, right? Jamie and I were just talking yesterday about movie villains, and we were talking about how, movie villains always do the same things. They do the villain gloat, and it's like, you're always wondering, why are you gloating over James Bond? You could just kill him and you would win. But there's something perceptive in that the villain gloat is part of the psyche of the narcissistic evil person, right? Because they're really obsessed with themselves, they have to sort of get that fix, you could say, through gloating and showing that they won and that they're superior. But that ends up being in even in fiction, right? The undoing of the bad guy because he can't control his own pride and vanity. And so that gets the best of him. And of course, James Bond can always get out of the trap and he can defeat Blofeld because Blofeld had to gloat and give James Bond more time to get free. So the big moral of the story here is if you're going to be an evil genius, don't do villain gloat, just kill people. I'm joking. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, that sounds kind of silly, but what I'm saying is that even that literary trope that we all know about villains is an insight into the fact that having extreme vice or being immersed in evil actually undermines the quote IQ, and you actually just become a slave to the passions. So it really doesn't even matter that you have IQ, because the IQ is really just sort of utilized to your own destruction. So, I mean, in the same way that you could say, but why would the devil do that? Well, why do really intelligent people destroy themselves? Right? We do this. We say the same thing when we see, really blessed, talented, creative people. Well, this guy's got it all, right? And then he's like, you'd find out, oh, he was in a gay relationship with some trans person on whatever, and he was smoking crack. And it's like, why would you leave your wife and kids for that? You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not even an IQ question. And I think there's this sort of madness that goes along with evil too. Like you just kind of go crazy. And sometimes the more successful and the more high IQ you are, you go even crazier. So hopefully I've helped you guys to learn how to become more effective Bond villains through telling you to skip over villain gloat. Late Night says for $10, Jay, did you ever read the book Face of Christ in the Old Testament? It's by an Orthodox writer named George Baroy. What do you think of it? Neil, I've not heard of that, but I'm glad you mentioned it, because when people asked this question the other night, I was like, I wish there was a good Orthodox book that talked about typology of Christ in the Old Testament, because I'm only familiar with a bunch of Protestant books on it. So it would be good if we do have a kind of a go-to Orthodox book on that. D. Joel says, don't stop, get it. Okay, I'll try. In the Phil says, my nickname in high school was Doodoo Cannon. Yeah, I hope somebody thought that was funny when that guy called in. He was like, would you call it the Doodoo Cannon? Yeah, the Doodoo Cannon, dude, that's it. Sin City, $10. What's up, man? Rui says, that guy needs some catechesis. Don't try to learn all this stuff on your own. Yeah, well, I did all of that the wrong way on my own for 20, however many years. So, yeah, exactly. Crowns, $10. If you live your life testifying before God and you do not love him, why would he then bring you into heaven to violate your free will? That doesn't make sense to me. Well, I also was just noticing, I don't know if I mean, don't you think you have, most Protestant evangelicals think you have free will. They're not, most of them are not Calvinists. So it's like, how do you have free will if you're once saved, always saved? Like, you can't not be saved, even if you don't want to be. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of evangelical pastors who they go from that to be an atheist, right? You've seen this probably on YouTube and TikTok the last several years, people deconstructing their faith. And several of the deconstruction people are like former evangelical pastors. And they formerly believed fervently in once saved, always saved. So they don't have free will? Like they can't, like God's going to force them to be, it just doesn't make it stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Andrew says for $10, let's see Trent Horn do a decade of doo-doo cannon call-ins and then talk about him being charitable. It is a challenge, and I do think that a lot of people are unfair in the way that they've characterized the call-ins over the years, because they act like I'm this horrible, mean person, and all I do is scream and yell at people, which is totally not true. Like, that's very minimal in terms of, like, getting loud to talk over the people that are actually trying to talk over me. And so, like, you can do 1,000 live streams of 1,000 hours of live streams, and people will pick the, 5 times in 1,000 live streams that you like got into it with some absolute retard. They're like, look at him, he's crazy. All he does is scream and cuss, which is preposterous. Totally not true. Zach says for $30. Let me be transparent. I'm actually retorted. I think he's quoting the classic Alex Jones, Joe Rogan appearance where Alex, let me just be transparent right now. I'm kind of retarded, okay? Yes, that's a classic Lord Voldemort. Well, the funny thing you mentioned too about Trent, like Trent doesn't do call-ins. I mean, as far as I know, maybe he does it on some sort of Catholic Answers radio show. I don't know if he does, but I mean, I've not seen him do sort of, YouTube live stream call-ins. I guarantee you if he did it like we do it, like he would have periods of, shall we say, being less patient than and less nice guy than he appears to be. Crowns, $5. What do you think about the theory that Nikola Tesla was actually getting information from demons and that through dreams there was advanced technology? I do know that Nikola Tesla did eventually get into theosophy at a certain point. I don't know if he died believing in theosophy or if he went back to Serbian Orthodoxy. I don't know the full story of what his thought process was. I do know that he had a period of that, which, is kind of unfortunate. But, sometimes eccentric genius people can get into kind of weird cult type stuff. So, was he getting these ideas from the spiritual realm or was it his own innate genius? Who knows? I do think it's possible that demonic entities can inspire people and give them ideas. In John C. Lilly's autobiography, he speaks that way. He says that every time he would do the ketamine or LSD or whatever, he would go into the float tank and he would get entities, he says, giving him ideas. So I do think that's possible. It's not aliens, though. Il Duce, $5. Why did you decide to debate Jake again? Well, so this is actually a bunch of different debates that got shuffled around. It's been shuffled around like 5 different times. So this had to do with people, James, who does MDD, looking for other people to debate. Andrew wasn't able to do that debate because he had 2 other debates scheduled. So James asked if I would step in, and yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then I think he's also found a different Muslim to do. So I'll be doing, I think, 2 Muslim debates. But that's why it just got shuffled around from different people not being able to do certain debates. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yes, there is a ticket for my audience. So I think you guys get a discount, $20 off, if you use the link from my referral. Let's see, where is it at? Yeah, so if you do want to go to DebateCon 8, this is July 25th in Dallas. I don't think that it's sold out. This is the referral link code for my audience, and I think you guys get $20 off. I think there's different tiers. Use the promo code 20 from Jay right there, and you get 20% off, if you guys can see that. So I'll put this here in the chat if you guys want to come out to that. I will also be at DebateCon in Orlando and DebateCon in Phoenix. So I think Phoenix is where there's going to be Trent, and then DebateCon in Orlando is the 2 David Wood debates. So there's the link if you guys want to go there. I don't have anything to do with the tickets or the prices. That's all James. That's all MDD. So don't fuss at me if you don't like anything about it. I have nothing to do with this other than this is for my audience. So that's up to you guys if you want to do it. I will be signing books and selling books. So if you do want to come get your book signed, I will be able to do that at DebateCon 8, July 25th in Dallas at the, I think I've actually stayed at this hotel on the Lyndon Johnson Freeway there. We've gone to Dallas a bunch, but I might be able to swing down to maybe Lord Voldemort as well if we do that trip. So we'll see. I don't think he's got the tickets ready for the one in Orlando or the one in Phoenix, but shout out to all my KGB comrades out there. Doyle, what's up? Yeah, you get the KGB discount if you put. I'm gonna tell him next time to make the code KGB Dyer, and you get 20 Dugan coin off of your your purchase. What's up, man? Doyle? Oh, Doyle, what's up? Doyle, unmute. Last chance. Okay. Animator, what's up, man? Animator, what's up? Can you guys not hear me? Do you not want to unmute? I don't understand. Hello?
Yo.
Hey.
Oh, I don't really have anything to say.
Awesome, dude.
I just joined first.
Yeah, thank you. Kiev and Roos, what's up? Kiev and Roos, what's up, man?
Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jay. I've been reading some St. Gregory Palamas lately, and got over this part where he was talking about how Enoch was translated, but Christ says that no one has ascended into heaven but the one who came down from heaven. So
Yeah,
you mentioned that
the Orthodox view is that Enoch and Elijah, the Orthodox view is that Enoch and Elijah went to paradise.
Okay, good to know, because I've been looking for some church fathers' interpretation on that. But yeah, also I see Alex is in the chat. He had a great debate the other day. But one thing that I'm noticing about these Protestant debates is like, unless you have someone that is very traditional Protestant, you just get a million different things. Like nobody has the same view, so you're debating a new form of Protestantism.
Yeah, well,
every
that's
debate.
yeah, exactly. And also, they don't actually know how to conduct a debate. So that's another frustration, is that they have no idea even what fallacies are or how you know, are supposed to conduct cross-examination. I mean, that guy was just like, I mean, that guy has no business ever trying to defend Protestantism. And I think I was reading the comments underneath the debate on Jim Bob's channel. It was like tons of people saying this is actually the worst debater I've ever seen. So I think that's really so. I think, you know, when it comes to that tier, whether it's Mahler and JP and Kelly, whatever his name is, I mean, these are just like literally the lowest of the lowest tiers. And that's actually a sign of like victory for us, because nobody else will step up. Like, where's the Protestant guy that will come defend, you know, sola scriptura? Where's the Protestant guy that's ready to jump up and defend justification by faith alone? I mean, 10 years ago, there was probably 50 of those that would, but where are all these? Like, they were just retired. Did they try to pull a fake juke retirement like me? Where are all these people? I don't understand. There used to be, you know, Protestant apologists out the wazoo 10 years ago. You couldn't turn on but it was the same way with Dawa too, right? Like when I would turn on the open space debates like 3 or 4 years ago, I mean, we would be flooded with Muslims in here. I don't remember the last time we've even had a Muslim call in. So I think the internet sphere is damaging these positions way worse than even most of us are realizing. I think the internet was so devastating to Dawa, especially the Fresh and Fit debate that we did, that had like 4 or 5 million views total with all the clips. I mean, I think that this stuff is just, I mean, even I get surprised like how, you know, how effective a lot of the internet stuff that we're doing actually is. Because, you know, I see what I do in my sphere and I see the numbers, and I mean, they're decent numbers. We've got, you know, a good sized audience, and it's a steady gradual growth. But even to me, you know, it doesn't feel like it's that expansive, but maybe it just is. Maybe this is way more than we realize, but who knows? I mean, a lot of churches have tripled, so that's a good sign. But even that, it's, you know, relatively speaking, Orthodoxy is still kind of small. So even if we triple the churches, and even if we have, as Deacon Rowland estimated, 20,000 converts last year. I mean, I think my guess is it's going to be exponential, and perhaps it's speeding up because nobody will come and defend their positions. It's just so kind of baffling. They all folded like so quick, dude. I thought, okay, we're gonna have a 10-year battle with Roman Catholics and the Protestants and the Muslims, and it's like, no, they all pretty much just folded. They just they all gave up. So, I mean, I even saw Voice of Reason. Somebody sent me a clip of him today, and he said, when I was doing apologetics, I looked at the Orthodox argumentation, and basically the Orthodox argumentation is just the same as the Protestants. It's the same as the Protestants. It's like, dude, you did like 2 debates, like maybe 3. What are you talking about? And you didn't do that good. So you're not in a position to declare like everyone else failed at debate when you're not even debating anymore. Like you got caught, had to retire, but you're still talking smack behind your paywall that Orthodox apologetics is done and it's Protestant. That dude's a joke, man. Gooberman, what's up? The Council of Ephesus made an error. What's up, man? Yeah, he talks mad smack behind a paywall. And it's funny if you watch the Ubi debate, the last one he did was with Ubi, and Ubi went really high tier. And I mean, it was so out of the wheelhouse of anything that Voice of Reason was able to grapple with, and Voice of Reason just kept turning it to, why should we believe the Orthodox Church? What's up, man? Last chance. All right. Blake, what's up?
Hello?
Hey.
So, I've been, I guess, inquiring Orthodoxy for the past few months. And I've been looking, I saw some stuff about old calendarism. And I have a few questions about old calendarism and what convinces me of old calendarism.
Well, do you mean the calendar itself, or are you talking about like schismatic, tiny little true Orthodox groups? Because Rokor is old calendar. Or are you talking about the schismatic groups?
Specific schismatic group. I was looking up something they're called the Genuine Orthodox Church. They're out of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, we're not doing that. Karen, what's up? I just covered all of this on which live stream? This live stream. We spent a whole hour on this like 2 days ago. Maybe the first hour of this one.
Podcast
in their ancient canons. Was it this one?
History, rewriting history to me.
Yeah, this one. So the first hour we cover the wandering bishop phenomena. And if you want to link yourself up with a bunch of spooks, kooks, and mentally ill people, have at it, man. You're gonna wish you didn't. Karen, are you gonna say anything or no? I don't. People must be having a hard time. LP, what's up? LP. Yo, I was tripping out because I'm like seeing myself, but then I'm seeing myself. Like, what's going on, dude? The whole first hour or so of this is addressing the wandering bishops phenomena. And I think the best way to address the wandering bishops is to not even go into the theology, because it's a waste of time and it only appeals to kind of like online spurgy people anyway. All you need to know is like, this is a realm of lunatics. LP, what's up?
Hi.
Yep.
I have a few questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
I was wondering what the Orthodox view is on free will in relation to the image of God, and what your view is on Genesis 6. So my first question is...
Yeah, so we believe that free will is integral to human nature. So to be made in the image of God includes the property of having the freedom of choice.
Yeah, so my question to that is that if angelic beings have free will, does that mean that they have the image of God?
Angels are in the image of God to a degree, but not in the same way that human beings are, because actually humans are made in the image of Christ. So we think that Christ is the second person of the Godhead, and that in the Garden of Eden, the mankind is made in the image of Christ. So angels were not, in that sense, made in the image of Christ to be destined to a higher degree of theosis, and that's, as we said earlier, what made the angelic beings envious of man. But insofar as angels have a hypostasis, they have a created hypostasis, they have a created personhood and subject, they have a free will, they have the use of reasoning, and so in that regard, they are in those ways like God or in God's image.
I see. Thank you. My second question is on Genesis 6, 1-4. Do you take the supernatural view or the Sethite view?
I have always favored the supernatural view.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate those questions. I think we have done some longer streams recently on the Nephilim type of stuff. Jake, what's up, Jake? Jake, not the Muslim metaphysician. What's up? Jake, I'm mute. Hello?
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
I've been going on a big deep dive with your with your tag videos, and I'm having trouble finding any source material for it. Like you've got Kant's transcendental arguments, you've got a bunch of different types that kind of vary from yours. So I didn't know if you had like your arguments.
I mean, there are a whole bunch of books. I mean, you could get anything by Greg Bonson, like Always Ready. You could get Greg Bonson's giant book, Van Til's Apologetic. There's a smaller book by Dr. Jason Lyle called, I'm going blank on the name of that book. It's Jason Lyle's little book on the transcendental argument. If you look that up, you'll find it. Lisle, Lyle. And then in the Discord, Father Deacon Dr. Ananias has probably 5 or 6 papers on the transcendental argument.
Okay, so you are of the Van Tillian school then?
Well, I mean, Orthodox Christian, so I don't obviously hold to all of the erroneous positions of Van Til, but to make it simple, yeah, I agree with a lot of the way that he presented the argument. Sure.
Okay, that actually kind of touches on my next question. Since Van Til was, I think, Presbyterian, right? Does tag hold up when you kind of get to its foundation if it's not arguing for the God of Orthodoxy? Like, if you have a Catholic God, at some level, is the argument not going to hold, if that makes sense?
Yes. If a lot of my older podcasts, 5, 6, 7 years ago, a lot of the talks that we did with FDA, Father Deacon Ananias, we're actually grappling with that quite a bit. There's probably 20 live streams where I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying, like, there's a bunch of old podcasts where we actually address that very issue.
Okay. I think that's it, man.
Yeah, man. Great questions. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
And then also FDA, he has a whole on Patristic Faith channel. He has a playlist that he goes through, and I'm sure he's got a bunch of reference material on his playlist. So the channel is Patristic Faith, and if you look at playlists, there's one that's just a giant tag playlist, and it has a bunch of the old ones that I mentioned in that playlist. George, what's up, man?
Hey, dude, how are you?
Good.
Hey, earlier you were talking about how the CIA used color revolutions, everything, and looking at how stuff goes on throughout the world. I was doing some research in Ukraine. I was listening to Alex's channel a couple days ago, and someone got on there talking about how bad someone from Russia who was a leader in the Orthodox Church was talking, or he prayed for some soldiers, and that was some sort of big deal. But then when you look into, like, just even the open source information just from mainstream, like, news websites, and then the recent release from by Tulsi Gabbard for the D&I stuff, I mean, they talked about this stuff openly, and just people just seem to memory hole it even from just 3 years ago.
But wait,
Or
by
I guess,
what? By this stuff? What do you mean?
like the Ukraine conflict.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't talk about how, first she wasn't the ambassador, but Victoria Nuland. I'm sure you're familiar with
Oh yeah,
her.
yeah. She was saying that they would use State Department money to do that, do all. And Soros says the exact same thing. In fact, we just did it the other day. We played a series of Soros clips where he was bragging about being behind all that.
Oh yeah, well now we even have the own government document saying
Yes.
it's like, oh yeah, if you look at the open source docs that they released that they declassified, it shows like from like 2010 they were building these weapons labs or these research centers as
Yes.
they called them.
Yeah, I knew
in
about
Ukraine.
that. Yeah, I knew that. I knew about that in 2018 or 19 because I spoke at AV9 in the UK, and there was a woman named Diliana who gave a talk on the biolabs that were being set up. She did that in 2017, 18. And I know that other people had discussed the existence of biolabs even before her. But yeah, we've known that for a long time. And then I think I saved it in my bookmarks here. Tulsi Gabbard was talking about, no, I'm thinking of Russiagate. Russiagate relates to it, but
I want to tell you, like,
go ahead.
you were having the nuance to like look at all the information and come up with a reasonable thing, and where you talk about, look, you can have two bad actors at the same time. It doesn't mean every person in one group is bad. It doesn't mean every group of the person is bad or the other group is bad. Like, you can have bad actors in key pivotal positions. It doesn't mean, and you can still dislike them. Like you talk about the time, you could be against Islam, right? About from a theology point of view, and also social societal pushes that they do, but also realize, hey, we don't need to allies with these guys against the social norms of what's going on in the U.S. We can have two separate, like, this could be good on one side, but also could be bad in that same sort of group, depending on what they choose to do. So I appreciate the nuance you provide for that, not just in theology, but in like the geopolitics stuff that you push, because it's hard for a lot of people, I think, to not have that same sort of thinking where it's like,
yeah, tell me about it.
This side or the other side.
Tell me about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so I appreciate you have that patience, man. I
thank
get
you.
it. Sometimes it's annoying when people call and it's like, oh man, this seems bad, and
well,
it's just like, no,
the
dude.
worst part was the past couple of days of commenting on Matt Walsh stuff, because
oh yeah,
all of those people were so like, okay, so Matt Walsh calls out Hassan Piker, and I'm like, do you really think Hassan Piker is running shit, dude? Are you serious? And then all the comments underneath that are like, why are you pro-commie? Why are you pro-Muslim? Why are you pro-commie? We got a commie. I'm like,
yeah.
How do you get that I'm pro-commie? It's just people are so easily inclined to think in these dialectics, right, which are super low tier, right?
Yeah, and I think you're right on with that. And I think that as I've gotten older, because I'm 41, so, and I know you're in your 40s too. So it's like, when I was younger, would 20-year-old me been able to think like that? Maybe not. I maybe just went with what was being told to me by people that I trusted that time.
Sure.
But then after you get older and you get a little bit of wisdom and you look around and like, wait a minute, how come you're saying this one thing on this hand? And then, now with the internet, it could be 2 years later, it could be even less than that. We see complete counter evidence to what was actually being said, where before it might have taken decades by some guy that was part of it and wrote a book about it, 40 years later.
Yeah, and that's why we made it such a crucial thing on my channel to regularly lecture through global elite books. And we've done that for 10 years now. We just did the Rothschilds biography yesterday. So you can't really understand the big picture unless you put the time and effort into trying to do that. And it is a vast undertaking, and I'm certainly not, I mean, I don't think anybody could in their entire lifetime master all of this material, but you can get a pretty good picture of what's going on, and that's kind of what we strive to do. And it's just so unfortunate with this, so many people in the the so-called conservative sphere, especially Con Inc. It's just so stupid. It's so dumbed down. And when David Wood made his video, he's just repeating everything that is in the neocon fake media. And we try to always have that macro meta level analysis, and I have that perspective because I went through all the same stuff everybody else does, right? When I was 20, 19, I mean, I was just mainline normie GOP Baptist. My dad was in the military, he was in the Navy, so I was raised as a Republican Baptist kid, so you got to vote against the libs. I voted for George Bush when he ran in, I don't know, was it 98 or 2000, whenever Bush was running. And I didn't really start thinking about anything beyond that normie left-right dialectic until I started getting into the conspiracy stuff. So conspiracy was a great gateway, even though a lot of conspiracy stuff is bullshit. It's just like probably, I don't know, when you look up, online, you go on TikTok and it's like, people are, I have a theory that Garth Brooks is a serial killer because everywhere that Garth Brooks goes, there's a serial killer event. So Garth Brooks must be a satanic, just retarded shit. Tartaria, all of history has been a lie, and the mud flood. It's like there's all this retarded shit, which is a lot of disinformation and grifters. But at least and we all go through these sort of phases, right? I've been through all these phases. I read the alien stuff in the 2000s. I read ancient technology, civilization stuff. Oh yeah, maybe there's alien tech. I had these phases too. And then I think over time you realize, oh, okay, well, so what's really going on is like the kind of shit that Simon Dixon's talking about, right? Like Jeffrey Epstein's emails show us that they're moving money where there's crisis conflict areas, and then they profit off of the conflict. That's a lot of what's going on. It's keeping people in fiat money debt slavery, right? These are the big real issues. That's what's really going on. And I'm not saying that there's not interesting metaphysical crazy stuff going on at times, or that there's not weird shit. But I noticed over time too, with a lot of the weird, like the wild woo-woo stuff, you can never really nail it down. You're always just kind of like, it's just one rabbit hole that leads to another infinite rabbit hole. And it's fun and it's entertaining at times just to look into that kind of stuff. But it's more like entertainment. And I like entertainment. I do a lot of entertaining things, I hope. But I also have an aspect, a side of my personality where I actually want to get into the real stuff. I want to know what's really going on. Especially, for example, if I'm going to put a lot of my income into something like Bitcoin, I want to know every angle of that as best I can. I want to know exactly what's going on with economics as best I can. I want to know the history of it. If there's giant spy stories in the news like Russiagate, well, I want to know what's really going on here. How can I best understand what's happening? Is Russia really controlling our politics? Is that retarded? So in other words, conspiracy is a gateway really into geopolitics. And that's when you realize, okay, that's what's really going on. And I'm not saying that in geopolitics there isn't disinformation and you're not going to be struggling to figure everything out. Like, you're never going to have everything figured out. Just like on the Big 9 event, I don't know every single detail of what happened at the Big 9 event, but I don't believe the official story. Like, there's enough questions that it's bullshit. So, we want to approach these things as best we can, with as best of an analysis as we can. And also to try to be as objective as we can be, even though nobody can be perfectly objective. We don't have an omniscient God's eye perspective. But I think in doing this kind of analysis, we want to strive to be as objective as we can be. That's the goal. That's the goal now. Anyway, but great call. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Luchador. Garth Brooks hid the bodies under the mud flood. Exactly. You guys have figured it out. John, if you want to come back, I saw you popping in and out of the chat. I was about to go to you, and then John always leaves right when I'm about to go to him. What's up, man? Luchador.
Yo, what's up, Jay? Long time, first time. I've listened to you since the Bloodsport days. Just want to say, as far as premeditated debates goes that you've had that weren't random call-ins, I think JP took the cake for the most retarded debater I've ever seen you debate. If you want to call him a debater, so much so that I think we need like a new name for this class of person. Like, although he might not be like genetically.
Wait, hold on. Well, I only had like a 20-minute, 30-minute conversation with him about intercession of saints. So I didn't actually. You talking about Alex Soren debated JP? Are you talking about Alex?
Oh wait, no, sorry, man. I was talking about Mahler. I think it was Mahler, right?
I've never debated Mahler.
Oh, who am I thinking thinking of? The dude with the backwards hat. Who was his name? What was his name? Anyways, I'm flaming out. I'll leave.
It's all right. And I'm just trying to figure out who. I mean, I've had some legendary stinkers, dude. I mean, I don't even think T-Dunk was in the. Maybe you're thinking of Misfit Patriot. A lot of people think Misfit Patriot was the worst all-time debate I ever did. There's also the Kurgan. He was a legendary fail, but also I don't even think. I mean, the Kurgan isn't even as bad as Misfit Patriot. Who you guys think was the worst? Let's let the audience decide. Yeah, I think he's thinking of Andrew talking to Mahler and JP. I want to say the worst. Well, no, it wasn't Tim Gordon. Not at all. I don't think Tim won any of those debates, but he wasn't the worst. I actually think, and a lot of people say T-Dump, but I actually think Misfit Patriot, he was worse than T-Dump. No, JF wasn't the worst. No, dude. Come on. Misfit Patriot is... I kind of think he was the worst. I've never seen a worse debate performance than Misfit Patriot. Oh, Captain Crackrock. He's terrible, but actually Misfit Patriot even was worse than Captain Crackrock. And whenever I was listing, yeah, they're worse. He's worse than Pastor P for sure. Brian Shapiro was not the worst debate. It was definitely entertaining. Powder Dusty. Oh, I forget. Maybe he's talking about that dude had his hat on backward. Yeah, that Powder Dusty dude's still mad at me over that debate. And I wasn't even mean to him. I was just kept asking him basic questions. It's like, oh, no, the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist guy, he was bad, but he wasn't the worst. He was actually pretty quick on his feet. I mean, he was retarded, but he was actually pretty quick on his feet to like try to deflect, which is a trick, but at least he was. Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to 100% give it to Misfit Patriot. I mean, Misfit, every time I think of anybody else, like Bryson Gray, Misfit Patriot was worse than Bryson Gray. Yeah. 9/11, what's up, dog?
Yo, what up, Jay?
What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say after that last guy, it was listening to the old debates. It's kind of funny because the progression over time of you getting onto this Zoom call all set up, and then slowly you can see it in your face as you realize the debate's not going to be of any substance. I just think it's hilarious. So.
Do you have one specifically in mind?
No, there was a few there. There was a few. I mean, do you remember that one? There's that one pagan.
Yes.
That was the weightlifter.
Yep.
That was gay. Do you remember that?
There's a lot of this. The pagans were some of the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about how his God helps him lift weights.
Oh, you're talking about Vegan Gains. Yes.
Oh my gosh, but it's just funny just to see the color and the enthusiasm slowly over the
drain from my face.
I don't know, 10 minutes drain from your face. It's just funny.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, thank you for that. People, I think Erudite was one of the worst. It's a tough call between Erudite and Misfit Patriot. I mean, in the Vegan Gains debate, well, there was two, right? Because the original Vegan Gains debate was pretty bad. But I have to think, I mean, Erudite and Vegan Gains and Ask Yourself were better than Misfit Patriot. I think we have to say Misfit Patriot was the worst of all time. Even worse than Erudite. And the Misfit Patriot was so bad, it only lasted like 20 minutes. It was like, dude, you're too dumb to even talk to, man. Just get out of here. What's up?
Oh, hey, Jay, thanks for letting me speak. I'm a huge fan. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about the structures underneath the pyramids, and how does that affect your worldview and spiritual understanding?
I mean, it doesn't really affect it much at all. We did do a couple podcasts on what that might mean. I did one with Jake Rattlesnake. We talked about how that, might rewrite history and it could prove Nephilim or what, if it's true. But I mean, it wouldn't really affect my spirituality. It would probably make me think, man, maybe maybe there's more evidence to the Nephilim story than I even thought. That would be my first thought if it was confirmed through LiDAR or whatever. So, Patriot for accepting a short notice debate. So, it's actually 30 minutes. So if you guys want a refresher on the worst debate I ever did, there is 30 minutes of insanity. I was even kind of awestruck at how dumb that dude was. I had no idea about anything. I'm like, why did you want to come debate? You don't know anything, dude. Like what, what was the thought process here? But yeah, I think, the Mark Brahman one wasn't one of the worst. But people forget the Kurgan. The Kurgan was really bad, dude. It's not Misfit Patriot, but it's pretty low level, dude. And Dire Central did re-upload the Kurgan debate.
We know for
what was funny is it was a very similar thing to Misfit Patriot. Like he didn't know who Denzinger was. He thought Denzinger was like some guy. I'm like, it's a book, dude. What? It's these sources of Catholic dogma. And so the whole time he thought I was just referring to this guy called Denzinger. And he's like, I don't care what Denzinger says. That's just some dude. I'm like, you understand that Denzinger is the sources of Catholic dogma that the Vatican uses. Like when they write their papers, that's what they cite. And this dude, by the way, was wild. I mean, this guy channels aliens on Mars. I mean, this dude is just like off the hook, dude. So that made for a really next level entertaining SETA debate. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys have all seen. People don't even remember, and you'd have to actually go, I think, to Jim Bob's channel to find. There wasn't just that one erudite debate. There was another 8 hours with her the next day. Okay, do you understand that? Like, I had a total of 13 hours of erudite because on the whatever podcast, there's the Friday or Saturday show, whatever it is, and there's like the 8 hour weekend show. Okay, and it's hot as hell in there, by the way. It was a wild experience. It was for the record books, but you actually have to go, I think, to Jim Bob's channel because Jim Bob, I don't think anybody wants to watch the other 11 hours of arguing with this insane chick, but it does exist if you want to see not just the 3 hours, but the additional 11 more hours. It is at Jim Bob's channel. Let's see if we can find it. But I mean, who really wants to watch that? I mean, do you really need to see 11 hours of this retarded woman? I don't think so. I think we all got our fill. Oh, here it is right here. Here's Jim Bob streaming. He only streams 8. It ends up being 8 hours, I guess, here on Jim Bob's stream. So here it is. This is this is essentially round 2, right? Because the first debate that I had was just me and her the day before. And then the next day is an entirely other 7 on Jim Bob's channel, 8 hour debate. So if you want to torture yourself with another 7 hours of me and erudite, you do have that option there. Jake Sloan, what's up, man? Agrippa's tripod. Exactly. I don't think Mark Brahman was worse than Misfit Patriot. What's up? Go ahead.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. What's up? Orthodox Protestant here. Just kidding. That was a erudite joke, whatever. I wanted to ask you about the Euthyphro dilemma a little bit, if that's cool.
I mean, we've addressed it a whole bunch, but yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said I've addressed it a whole bunch, but go ahead.
Oh, really? Okay. So So it's one of those annoying arguments that I see on TikTok with atheists, and I've always found the Catholic answer to be good.
How do they answer it? What's their answer?
Saying so the Euthyphro dilemma is like, is piety pious because
is it right because God says so, or right, or yeah?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. What was that?
Yeah, is it correct because God said so, or does God say so because it's correct?
Yeah, right. And their answer is kind of pointing to divine simplicity, saying that.
Yeah,
like,
that's why I would not go with theirs. Exactly.
I'm sorry.
That is why I would not go with the Roman Catholic answer.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. That's kind of why I'm curious as to like what the Orthodox answer would be, because it kind of the Catholic answer kind of just beats it pretty easily. But if you can't grant that, then how would you do it? You know?
Well, I'm confused because I would actually, to me, it seems like if I admit the Roman Catholic view of divine simplicity, it would undercut. So how would it answer it simply? No, Jim Bob is not taller than me. What are you guys talking about? We're sitting at an angle, you idiots.
Like, goodness is God's nature. God is good, like capital IS is.
Yeah, but that's one of the sides of the dilemma. So how does that answer it?
So okay, let me think out loud here for a second. Euthyphro dilemma is goodness good because God wills it, or does God willing it make it good? I think
you just restated yourself.
Catholic answer would say
no, you just restated yourself.
And God as concepts are like they can't be divided.
You didn't state the dilemma correctly. You just restated the position. So the dilemma is are the gods righteous because they possess righteousness and make it righteous, or will it to be so, or is there a standard righteousness that the gods submit to that make it righteous? And so the whole argument is premised, let's just cut to the chase here. The whole argument is premised on Greek metaphysics. So low-tier atheists don't know this, they don't realize it, but the argument assumes goodness is in some way synonymous with or isomorphically identical to the monad or to the one. And of course, for the Orthodox, there are many goods. Okay, so we're not going to admit that there's just one type of goodness, which is like some eternal divine goodness. There's many goods. God is good. There's also created goods. So the argument hinges on there only being one kind of sort of non-temporal good. That's one problem. The argument also the question also assumes that the type of deity in question can't have different aspects to him that are unique and are not isomorphically identical to his essence. So the essence energy distinction plays into this because Orthodox theology distinguishes itself from Greek Hellenic metaphysics by not having a absolutely simple monad. So it's actually not a dilemma unless you have the absolute simplicity doctrine of the Greeks, which is ironically the same position as Roman Catholics on the Trinity. So, Noah, what's up?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've been watching you for about 2 or 3 years now, and you've been very inspirational for me, so I'd just like to thank you. And my question isn't really a debate question. It's more, as I've seen your videos and live streams throughout the years, I've seen you debate multiple people with various backgrounds, some formal, some informal debates. And you seem to have a very strong understanding of a wide variety of topics, from geopolitical stuff, philosophy, religion, the occult, all this random topics. And you have a knowledge that is deep enough to have debates with people who strongly believe in these. So my question is, how can somebody living in the modern age with, social media brain rot, learn all of these subjects to a very high level like you have?
I think it would take a lot of discipline. So it can be done if you have that desire, if that's what you're interested in, especially if you're a younger person. So one thing I did when I was in my 20s was, and this may or may not be available to you, but I ended up in a situation providentially where I had a job where I could read for about 10 years straight. So for me, I just put that kind of first. I just worked a paint store job. I was a manager of a Pittsburgh paint store, and I could just sit and read for most of the day because we had periods where in the morning, the contractors and painters would come in and get their paint. And then there would be a very long lull until right before closing time, before 5. So I had that situation for about 10 years. It was a very flexible situation too, where I could do college. So I would do classes part time, drive and do those in the evening or whatnot, and then work during the day. Again, I did that for maybe 12 years. I don't know, for many years. And uh, not everybody might have that scenario. So, but that's one of the ways I was able to read so much of the church fathers. I didn't read all 38 volumes, but I read thousands and thousands of pages of church fathers over those years. Read a lot of the Summa as well through those years. I was still a Protestant for much of that time, not all of it, but for some of it. So I read a lot of Protestant books throughout that period. It's when I read all the 1559 Institutes of Calvin, etc. So that sort of voracious reading is something that you would have to cultivate. Um, I read a lot of geopolitical books too, because I was also doing college stuff, right? So I'm writing papers, and then I did grad school. I had to write a lot of papers, so I think that was very useful for what I ended up doing, which I didn't expect I'd be doing this, but I thought I would be teaching, right? I wanted to be a professor. I was going to go get PhD and teach philosophy or whatever. But I would say, if you do want to do this kind of stuff, you have to realize that it's it's useful if you're gonna do it like in a job way. It's not that useful like if you're just gonna be working, and I'm not dissing wage slave jobs. I had to do that for many years. But I mean, if you're not going to try to go into using this knowledge for, I mean, here's one example. You could use this knowledge for investing, if you wanted to try to save up and, learn how to invest and where to put money and that kind of stuff. This type of knowledge can be useful for that. Um, but that's actually been one of the challenges that I've had over the years is when I convey this information to people, most people really don't think that this is that useful for them. And I understand that, the theology and Orthodox stuff is probably way more practical for people's lives. The geopolitical stuff doesn't perhaps seem that useful to most people, but it really just depends on you and what you want to do. And so I would say try to cultivate a pretty voracious reading schedule. Um, don't get bogged down in one subject. It's going to be difficult to finish every book, and don't get too discouraged. You're probably going to have a lot of books that you only read half of, or a third of, or three-fourths of. That's okay. There have been many books over the years that I just didn't end up finishing. They just weren't that engaging or interesting. But also, this type of reading is something that you have to work up to. It took me several years before, and it's kind of in a way an ascetic endeavor. It took me many years before I could get to where I could read all day long. Like I couldn't do that right away. I started when I was in grade school, being able to read a lot throughout the day, and there was times when I was in fifth or sixth grade where I could read all day long. But if you're a young guy, you have a lot of energy, you probably don't want to do that. But by the time I was in my 20s, I got pretty good at being able to read all day long. In some situation, sometimes I've even read entire books in a day. I mean, really long books too. Like I remember reading Crime and Punishment. I think I read that in 3 days, just sitting in one chair. I read it straight in 3 days. But that's not something everybody can do. But I would say that if you've got the sort of TikTok brain rot, that kind of stuff, I mean, unless you're making money or content on TikTok, like there's no reason to be on there. Just get off. So think about your time, how valuable your time is. Unless you're actually making content, then there's no need really to be on there. It's not really giving you any value. And the algorithm is designed, as I'm sure you know, to be addictive and like, constant. So you're actually destroying your attention span by it. Yeah. I mean, beyond that, there's not a whole lot. I would also say, and I like gaming, but I would say also try to limit your time playing video games because video games are fun, but it's also like super high paced and like your attention span is like all over the place, right? So you're kind of training yourself to be like constantly sort of, agitated. And to read, you have to have a very high level of focus. I would also say too, NAD actually works. If you get NAD, it will help you focus. I've been able to read pretty intensely by taking one NAD every day. Don't take two because I took two one time. I was basically just staring for like hours. Do not take two NAD, but if you do get NAD, you can take one of them. That will help you focus for sure. Yeah, so those are some good techniques I would say if you want to get. And if if you're very addicted to like watching things or something like that, or like constant stimulation, I would say start watching good documentaries. That's a good way to transition from, just garbage video content to at least content that's giving you some kind of information, some educational material. I wish they still had that Byzantine Empire documentary. That's a good one. They pulled that one down though many years ago because it was too based. But yeah, try to find good, not shit lib documentaries, but like, good documentaries on history. And like lately, one thing I've been doing is replacing a lot of the time that I would have used to, I don't know, watch retarded shit on YouTube. I'm like, okay, why am I doing that? I need to optimize the time that I'm watching some retard's video on YouTube by, I'm going to watch a documentary on the Ottomans. Right. So I made a list of all the topics that I don't know a whole lot about, like Chinese intelligence, the history of the Ottomans, history of the Palestinian Liberation War. Like I just watched a PLO documentary the other day because I don't know a whole lot about the PLO. So I would say like start listing things that you don't know a lot about and start watching documentaries as a good way to sort of take up that time that you are watching retarded shit on. Because we've all done it. We've all scrolled through, a bunch of dumb shit on Instagram or even on X, and you're like, I just spent an hour watching like ducks farting. Like, what am I doing? This is a waste of time. Florida man, what's up? No, I didn't actually watch an hour of ducks farting, but you know what I'm saying. Like, if you click on one, like on Instagram, there's schizogram. You click on one, then you get like the whole feed is just schizo stuff. And then you get addicted to watching schizos doing crazy, which is entertaining, I have to admit. But Florida man, and then postmodern. What's up, Florida man?
How you doing, Jay?
Good.
Appreciate all your work. Keep it up. Because you're an avid reader, I was just curious if you had ever read either the Turner Diaries or The War of the Flea by Robert Tabor. And the Turner Diaries is by Andrew McDonald.
No, I'm not familiar with either of those. I mean, I've heard of the Turner Diaries. In that like a classic kind of it's in the Fed sphere, like they're always
absolutely. So it supposedly inspired the Oklahoma City bombing,
yes,
and it was a banned book in a whole bunch of countries across the world. But it's incredibly telling how much of what we're living through right now in the West is depicted in the book.
Well, they say the same thing.
Short read. It's real fun too. I recommend it.
They say the same thing about the Campus Saints too, which was banned, and they had to bring that one back too. So, what's up, postmodern?
Hey Jay, how you doing?
Good. What's up, dude?
So, first off, went to my first Divine Liturgy the other day. Which
was
a really good experience.
Wow, guys, for those that don't know,
I went since I was a kid. So.
Oh, really okay. I forgot your background, but this is for guys that don't remember. This is postmodern. We did a very interesting conversation a while back on his channel on eschatology, so you guys can check that out on his channel. Your channel is called Postmodern Theology, right?
Yeah. And we did one on Sola Scriptura.
Yes.
Actually, that's what actually sort of planted the seeds for me that something was wrong. But look, I've been doing some posts on Sola Scriptura lately, and I recognize that the Acts 15 Council gave an infallible ruling, right? Obviously, at the time when Acts wasn't written. And it seems they have this ability to loosen bind in that capacity with the keys that have been given to them, right?
I would say so.
I was just
yeah.
pointing that out.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah. And so I had this guy, this Protestant fella, I think he's a non-denominational guy called Reed Uberman, wanting to do a discussion or a debate
All
on
right.
sola scriptura or my reservations of such. And so one thing I wanted to ask you is essentially with this idea of that R.C. Sproul, a fallible list of infallible books, right? Ultimately, that seems to not be able to have any certainty on what the actual canon is with that foundation. And normally, when you obviously bring that up, they say that I don't need to be infallible to recognize something that is infallible. Like a fallible object could recognize something that is infallible. What do you think, is the best way to present that epistemological dilemma?
Well, yeah, I would just take it out of the discussion of, quote, infallibility, and let's just put it in the domain of normativity. So, is there no means by which we can be normatively, ethically bound to a canon of scripture? Is there any body of people that could do that? Because as soon as a Protestant has to admit that it seems like there would be that, they've undercut the crucial Reformation principles of no one can bind my conscience. So in other words, I don't even think we can keep, but let's just put it in the ethics domain. Let's just forget the epistemology and let's just say, okay, so nobody's bound. And if nobody's bound by it, then there's nothing really preventing you from your own personal private canon of scripture, me from my personal private canon of scripture, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's certain things that they do recognize that is with certainty. Even Christ's deity, they seem to be quite certain about that. There seems to be.
Well, yeah, you could go that route. You could phrase it that way. You could say, well, am I infallibly bound to believe in the Trinity, if you do want to use that terminology? And they'll be like, well, okay, yeah, that's taught in Scripture. And it's like, yeah, but if you're going to say it's taught in Scripture, that presupposes some limited set of books that tell us where the Trinity, right? So, in other words, you're back, I think, to square one to say, if you're going to say that the Trinity is a necessary dogma, then it's going to require some, because that's resting on the canon of Scripture, okay? But if the canon of Scripture can be your canon versus my canon versus Bob's canon, then how are we going to say that the doctrine of Trinity is necessary? Because
Exactly.
maybe Marcion's maybe Marcion's canon was correct, and Marcion's canon was so truncated. He was the first person to have a canon. It's so truncated that maybe we wouldn't have the Trinity doctrine from his canon.
Well, see, that's an interesting point because I was reading recently Bruce Metzger's Formation of the New Testament Canon, and it's quite clear. It's quite clear from obviously a textual critical perspective that there was no universal New Testament canon in the first sort of few centuries,
right?
And the Gnostics seemed to be pumping out gospels left, right, and center.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was only the traditions that carried through that actually could qualify what was going back to the apostles of the first century. It didn't. No one could read it. Well, not everyone was literate, but it seems ahistorical, the idea that Scripture provided the foundation by how they knew what the canon was. It doesn't
exactly
historically make sense.
Absolutely, and in fact, one of the best insights that we could look to from the second century on this is, let me find this quote here. I believe it's book 3. Yeah, so if we go to Against Heresies in book 3 of St. Irenaeus, he talks about what the gospel is and, how do we know the gospel? And he says, well, you're going to go to the churches, you're going to learn the gospel in the churches. But then he says, well, where do we do that? How do we know that? Because every group, including all the heretics and the Gnostics, they're going to use the scriptures, and they're going to have perhaps their competing list of scriptures. As you're pointing out, there's already a proliferation of pseudepigrapha and, just straight up fake, Gnostic gospels. So Irenaeus says, look, it's very simple how we go about this. When they are refuted from the scriptures, the heretics will actually turn around and say, well, these same scriptures are not correct, and they don't have any authority upon me, and they assert that the scriptures are unclear. They will then allege that they're extracted from a secret tradition. He's talking about the Gnostics. And he says that they allege that the truth was not delivered by means of written documents, but a secret teaching that they have, according to Paul. So this, he's talking about the Gnostics, and as he mentions, he says Valentinus, Cerinthus, Basilides. These are the Gnostics of that day. And then he says, but when we refer them to the tradition of the apostles, which is preserved by the means of the succession of the priests in the churches, and the tradition, they object to that tradition. They say, we are wiser than that tradition, and even wiser than the apostles. For they maintain that the apostles intermingled these things with the laws of the words of the Savior. He's talking about the Gnostic teachings. But he says, we don't tell them to just go to the scriptures. We say, you go to the apostolic succession, that the churches that have apostolic succession can be identified as the ones that are the true churches. And then he lists as a key example the Church of Rome. He says, let's just take the most preeminent church, which is the church at Rome, and it's preeminent, by the way, not because of the papacy, but because of Peter and Paul, according to St. Irenaeus in book 3 here. And he says the churches that come from the apostles are the sole inheritors of the apostolic deposit. And he uses Rome as just simply the example. He says Rome, because of its preeminence due to Peter and Paul, they have that deposit. They have that totality, which is not just the written texts, but also the apostolic succession and the tradition. So the three-tiered stool of Bible, tradition, and apostolic succession isn't just some idea that Roman Catholics came up with. It's actually right here in Irenaeus in book 3, chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's very, very intriguing. I mean, the tradition component, even for something like Hebrews, that doesn't meet the, I guess, canonicity requirements for apostolicity, obviously being a prerequisite within, normative means when it comes to how people actually formulate what is canon. Let's go back to an apostolic author. But Hebrews doesn't meet that requirement, which is quite interesting. So it's only the tradition that actually could validate it somewhat. So that makes it seems sacred tradition is the necessary prerequisite to even look at it from a historical perspective and not a dogmatic perspective. You just got to look at the evidence when they keep speaking about it and meeting those requirements. So, okay, well, cool, man. I'll leave you be. Hope all is well. Appreciate it. And, yeah, just for everyone listening, Jay did significantly help me on this journey towards Eastern Orthodoxy. So I appreciate all the work you're doing, man, and keep at it. God bless.
And when you're wanting me to debate a Protestant friend of yours again, is that still on?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So I was going to message you about that. It seems like he's booked out to the end of the year, so it ain't going to happen this year. But he was keen. But he's actually good friends with sort of Gavin Ortland, Wes Huff, these guys. I'm relatively friendly with Wes and that, and I've been planting seeds to try and tee up a debate.
Good. Well, I'm always down.
So I've been trying to work behind the scenes on that.
Okay.
Because I think there's a misconception of everyone forgetting all the formal debates that you've done. So,
conveniently forgetting
moderator and all those things, and get to the right. I think there's been a lot of recent open discussion debates, and obviously they're very, very hard to regulate, and sometimes it falls into a different category of debating, of course, but. I think.
Yeah, I don't understand why they could.
Though, right? Was that a formal one or open discussion?
Trent and I had a formal debate, and we're going to have 2 new formal debates later this year.
Oh man, that's exciting. That's going to be good.
And then I have two.
Yeah, I'm working behind the scenes on that one. So
okay.
I'm going to be touch basing with Wes in the next couple of weeks. So I'll keep you posted.
All right, man. Appreciate that. And glad to see that you are continuing to move in that direction. That's good news. But again, you notice right here, you guys, in the 2nd century, Irenaeus says right here in Against Heresies, this is 180 AD, the heretics don't have apostolic succession and they don't follow the tradition of the apostles. Intro to the Furnace. What's up? Intro to the Furnace. What's up, man? I'm mute. Are you going to talk or no? All right. Steve, what's up, Steve? Steve, what's up, Steve?
Oh, thanks so much again, Jay. By the way, thanks so much for making yourself available to answer these questions. And I love your music. I think it sounds really interesting, and the lyrics are hilarious.
Thank you.
But my question is, kind of growing up in as a I'm not sure what the names are, but as a kind of a charismatic, what's the Orthodox view of charismatic Christians and whether they're saved and going to heaven?
Yeah, I've got several videos you could check out on the critique of that. Just type in Jay Dyer, Charismatic Pentecostal. You'll get all those videos. I mean, again, we don't say necessarily anybody's personal, independent, or individual destiny. We don't know, but the beliefs of those are not Christian at all for us. We would consider them heterodox. Ram Dejin, what's up, man? Ram Dejin, what's up?
Hey Jay, how you doing?
Good.
I'm
What's
a big
up?
fan of your work.
Word.
So I was inquiring about the Eastern. I mean, not inquiring as informally, but being curious about the Eastern Orthodox position. And I wonder, like, from your paradigm, how do you explain why the Sadducees did not believe in the day of resurrection, or like those? Because you mentioned how Judaism was not monolithic, and so like, how does the church kind of view these differences before the incarnation, or these differences in theological?
I don't understand the question. Why would I need to justify the fact that the Sadducees were sort of the liberals of their day and didn't believe in miracles? I mean, that's kind of a fact of history. I didn't even think that was controversial. So what do you mean to justify that? I don't understand.
Well, the idea being like, if there was a sect of Judaism that did not hold to the specific doctrine of the day of resurrection, and the other sect, the Pharisees, that trace their lineage through the writings of the prophets, some of them that were exiled in Babylon.
Right.
I mean, can we not say there's evidence that the day of resurrection is not inherently a Jewish belief? Like, considering we have evidence, it does exist in the indigenous religion in Persia or Zoroastrianism.
Well, I mean, Jesus says in the Gospels that the Pharisees were correct and the Sadducees were wrong. So,
well, the Pharisees weren't correct either with denying the divinity, which also exists.
No, but Jesus says the Pharisees were correct about resurrection and the soul and angels.
Okay. No, I agree. Yeah.
I still don't understand what the argument here is. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I just don't understand the line of thinking. What's the question? What's the struggle here?
So is it not fair to say the day of resurrection is not inherently a Jewish belief if we can justify it comes from elsewhere? I'm not saying it has any bearing on the veracity of Christianity.
It exists prior to Persian ideas of those Persian ideas because it's in the book of Genesis. Jesus argues the resurrection for the book of Genesis, so I don't understand.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you're confusing like the rabbinic teachings of the Talmud with what the Old Testament teaches. We don't have that perspective. We think Orthodox Christianity has an interpretation of the Old Testament that we think is correct, which is in line with what's in the Gospels when Jesus talks about to the Pharisees, Abraham is not dead, he's alive to God, right? And Jesus to the Pharisees argues, or actually I think it's to the Sadducees. Jesus argues to the Sadducees that the book of Genesis teaches the bodily resurrection. That's why they were preserving at the end of Genesis the body of they preserved the body of Moses, and then they preserved the body of Joseph as well. So why would there be bodily preservation at the end of Genesis if there wasn't a belief in the resurrection? Jess, what's up? What's up, dog? Hello? Jess, do you want to talk or not? Guess not. Stefan, what's up, dude?
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to ask because I did a little research into this because with the whole Russia situation going on right now, and patriarch of the Russian Church actually did say that he was that this situation with Ukraine is a holy war. But I know this is not the position of the Orthodox Church in Russia. So, I mean, is there like an issue?
I mean, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say that the patriarchs are infallible?
No, that's my point. So if the patriarch of a certain church has an opinion, does that reflect the church in general?
No. I mean, we're not papists, so.
But is he not like the patriarch of the church? No.
Yes, he's the patriarch. So what does that have to do with what you just asked? Nikki, what's up? So you notice here at the end of Genesis, they are taking care to the very last verse. So Joseph died being 110. They embalmed him and put him in a coffin in Egypt. Why would you do that if you don't believe in the resurrection? That's one of the arguments of the New Testament. What's up, Nikki? I'm mute. I mean, they're saying pagans don't believe in resurrection. So pagans, hold on, dude.
Yeah, I'm back. It's been a while.
I don't know who you are.
I don't know, maybe with this name. So I'm good. I'm well.
I don't know who you are, dude.
I don't have a...
Can you not hear me? I don't know who you are.
I don't have a headset. Can you hear me? Is the audio quality bad?
I don't know who you are. Who are you?
I the artist formerly known as Nikki D.
I don't know what that means.
I've been on your show in the past.
Okay. So what's your question?
Or maybe, yeah, like NICKY.
Okay, dude, what's your question?
DEE. I have a Substack page. I was trying to support comedy with my audio blog journals, but my written word sometimes...
Do you have a question? We're not here to... This is not for you to promote your Substack. What's your question?
Yeah, but you said you don't know who I am,
okay.
so I had to establish...
All right. Thank you for wasting our time. Practice, what's up? I'm just going to start trolling the callers like, what is he, the patriarch? Yes, so the patriarch is infallible. Yes, you must agree with everything. The patriarch never says he's infallible. What's up, man? Practice, last question. It must be getting late at night. We're getting crazy people. Camden, what's up?
Hey, Jay.
Hey.
Hey, was wondering, okay, so it's kind of like a multifaceted question. Trying to understand, would you please kind of help me understand how the Orthodox paradigm allows for there not to be like a list of dogma?
How it allows for there not to be a list? I mean, in a sense, there is a list. It's called the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. But also, no church gives you the infallible list of dogma. So that's a fool's venture. Rome doesn't have that.
Okay.
So...
Does Rome claim to have that?
No.
So like from the Orthodox paradigm, how can like a layman know what's dogmatic?
You spend your time in the church, and the Holy Spirit teaches you through the lives of the saints, the church fathers, the councils, all of that.
Okay. I guess I got to that end part in the Pelican book that talks about what Augustine and Vincent of Lorenz talks about what's dogmatic, and it just kind of seemed broad.
Exactly. But everybody's categories are broad. So, I mean, even Rome, when they try to give you the universal ordinary magisterium, they just say, yeah, well, it's what was believed everywhere at all times that the papacy says. Well, that's super broad. That doesn't really help me. So.
Okay, so like practically speaking, I spend time in the church. It's revealed to me.
Yep.
And like, so at the point of there being a disagreement, it goes up in the ladder of authority to a priest, bishop.
Well, like what do you mean by disagreement? You disagreeing with the church, or like you saying what's the like within you think there's a contradiction between one council to another? What do you mean disagreement?
Yeah, just like however hypothetically it would spawn, just whether it's between priests, between bishops, whatever. The question climbs the ladder of authority, and then it gets.
Well, I mean, it just depends on the type of question. I mean, it depends on if you mean like a personal issue between you and one priest, or like you think you have a problem with the doctrine of the Trinity at some point. I mean, it just depends on what type of a question we're talking about, because most problems like that are solved at the local level.
Okay, sure. So I guess like maybe like a way that we could tie this to like a historical thing, like the split in the church when it comes to the Orientals. So the way that this would apply, like, would you say that the main way that one would be able to know what's dogmatic at that point, it's just being in the church, and then at a certain point.
Are you asking like how does an Orthodox person know what the dogma is, or how does a person know whether the Orientals or the Orthodox are right? Because those are two different questions.
My question is encapsulating both of them. Maybe like putting myself into into the shoes of somebody during that time. Like how am I able to determine what the dogma is at that point in order to like categorize myself with
at that time? But I mean, but you're not in the 5th century, so I don't.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying hypothetically, like if this were to be if something like that were to happen today, like where would I look to know that I'm a part of the church?
I mean, you have to know and be in the existing canonical church to know what the church is. So there is no public perfect. You just put in this formula and it will tell you whether Rome or the Orientals or Orthodox are right.
So if something like that were to happen today, like is it just a means of like
doing
my own legwork to
yeah, there's no way to bypass having to look into the issues if you want to know for yourself. There's no like magic formula of you just follow the Pope, because the Pope's telling you that it doesn't matter. So the Pope's an ecumenist, then the Pope's basically saying, well, you don't actually have to be Roman Catholic. So you have to enter the church and you learn it. So you can't shut your mind off and just ask for, the immediate internet easy solution, because nobody has that. Jess, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay. Thanks for taking this. I was just curious. I heard you mention the Kat Von D interview, which was really good, about no one talking about the Book of Job. And I've kind of been obsessed with the Book of Job for, I don't know, like 6-7 years. I wonder if, I liked your Christological explanation, but I was just curious, as a debate guy, I'm not a debate guy. What do you think about the conversation or the back and forth between Job and his friends?
I've always thought that Job is actually in error, and it's actually Elihu that's correct. That's how I've always read it.
Oh, really? How so? Could you explain on
because
on that?
God's answer seems to align with Elihu's rebuke to Job and the friends. So what?
Like the friends seem to be arguing in terms of analogy.
But the whole point of the book is that it's Job and the friends that end up in error. Elihu corrects Job, and that's an exercise in humility, because Elihu is the young guy, and it's the young guy that actually is correct in that case versus the older guys. And then God basically comes in and says, yes, Elihu is essentially correct. You don't know, you're not in a position to make these kinds of judgments. So again, I mean, my interpretation is not infallible. I don't know. That's just how the text always.
I was looking up, see if you had talked about the Book of Job at any point, and I couldn't.
Not really. I probably should. I just haven't thought about it in a while.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Good questions. And yeah, I think she definitely resonated with with the Book of Job. Elijah, what's up, dude? Elijah, what's up?
So I had this might be a little bit of an odd question, but I really enjoyed a long time ago when you did do you remember when you did that Bishop of Rome expose, that new document that the Vatican released?
I mean, we've done a few of those over the years. You're talking about Fratelli Tutti, or you're talking about I mean, there's a bunch of these.
The one that's called Bishop of Rome, like the newest one that came out, like right before Francis died.
Is that the long sort of theology paper that was supposed to be a reassessment of the place of the Bishop of Rome?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the beginning of that stream, you did some clarifications about the stream that you did prior to that, where the stream that you did prior to that, it was a half stream because the other half is behind a paywall.
Okay.
But it was a half stream about you going through the entire Torah, going through all of the times that the Trinity shows up in the first 5 books.
Right.
So, is there a way that I can purchase just that one specific video behind your paywall, which is the second half, without subscribing to the rest of it?
Will
Or
not
do
be called
I have to subscribe to the?
Well, I mean, you could. I mean, it's only $5. You could subscribe and then unsubscribe.
Oh, it's only $5. Oh, I thought it was like 20 or 30 or something.
No, it's just $5 at the website.
Well, I mean, I'm a mega retard, so that's,
It's okay.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been $5. I'm not fussing at you. It's been $5 for 10 years. I mean, I kind of feel like I should raise it, given the fact that $5 is worth nothing now. But I feel like if I raise it, everybody will get pissed off. So I feel like, what's the point of raising it? So, but yeah, you can watch the part 2. I don't think the part 2 is on YouTube for members because this was before I got remonetized and I didn't have memberships when I did this stream. But yeah, here's the stream, Trinity in the Torah. By the way, I think I missed 2 verses. Ironically, I think I missed Leviticus 9, but maybe not. So there were a couple verses I later found that I missed, but aside from those 2, this covers all of them. Lori, what's up? Il Duce. No, we did that one. Ortho Fool. Did you watch the Protestant versus Catholic versus Orthodox debate with Dr. Daff where they had the girls on? No, I didn't watch that. I'm probably not going to ever watch that. But what's up, man? I mean, woman.
Hey, Jay, how are you?
I'm well.
So I've been just heart crushed since the Charlie Kirk assassination, and even more heart crushed at the gaslighting of the Trump administration. I understand, we're living in a uniparty world, but from a theological perspective, and I did recently see your debate against the Masons. I thought you were great at exposing the hypocrisy. If we're supposed to be one nation under God, right? And America has any hope of fulfilling her destiny as this great country from a theological point of view, like how do we get out from under this really horrid system of lies that it feels like they just keep feeding us and expecting us to take? I just trying to sort through it.
I mean, I don't think there's any easy solution or answer other than to continue to live and practice orthodoxy. I mean, I was involved in political activism and stuff like that in the 2000s, and I was into the Ron Paul, Tea Party stuff, and I just don't see a lot of hope for politics. And people think, oh, you're black-pilled. No, I'm just thinking like the Rothschilds do of like long-term. The Rothschilds were so successful because they thought generationally. So I think all the people that are thinking in that way, and they're thinking, all right, we got to have, kids and we got to raise them up the right way. And we spread our worldview. I think that's a much better, 100, 200 year strategy versus this thought process that a lot of people have with America because they think, well, we'll just, have political solutions. I'm not saying you can't be involved in politics. I'm just saying people kind of get their heart broken because they think politics is gonna, be a solution. And when I was talking to this big podcast that drops tomorrow, we actually had a pretty long talk about this, and this person expressed that they themselves had spent a lot of time in the political sphere and had kind of gotten, again, not blackpilled, but just sort of tired of it, and that they were much more interested in worldview types of questions than they were in, the party politics stuff. So that's a lot of people's progression, is to get kind of interested in those things. And I'm not saying that you can't be involved in politics. I'm not saying you can't do culture war, any of that. All that stuff's great. It's useful. People should be involved in all these different arenas. I just think that a lot of people have expectations about politics that many years eventually teaches them that, okay, I'm not able really to affect as much change as I thought maybe I could, or maybe that they thought the president could, or whatever. So I think the solution there is not to be blackpilled, but to think really long term. Where are we going to be in 20, 30, 50 years? So you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about your grandkids, right? And shout out to Rachel in the chat. I remember one of the first things that I ever saw a clip of Rachel. She was talking to one of those OnlyFans chicks, and she was just reasoning with her in a very practical way of like, well, you understand that if you spend all of your young years doing this, you're probably not going to be able to find a solid pair bonded mate that will give you kids that will take care of you when you're not pretty enough to do OnlyFans. Right? Because this is a limited time frame of when you can, be showing your butt. Because most people, unless you're some kind of weirdo, they're not really into granny butts. Okay, so you can show your butt and make money on that for a short-term period in your boobies, but eventually, it's like, okay, what are you going to be doing when you're 50? Who's going to take care of you when you're, do you want to be in the old folks' home? You probably don't. Old folks' homes suck, right? You're going to have some bitch ass black orderly beating your ass because you white, right? That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So that thought process, which is super practical, I was like, man, that's a genius line of argumentation. Like, we don't have to get into epistemic justification. That's just like, because OnlyFans chicks don't care about epistemic justification, but she's going to care about whether she's, got children taking care of her when she's 70. So if we start thinking in that way, that's a much better approach to how we're going to fix the country's problems, which are so vast that they're not going to be probably fixed in our lifetime. I mean, we can maybe make progress, and changing people's thought process is like stage one for sure. So it begins small, but then it can grow, into, just think of the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire wasn't Christianized in one generation. It went from it took like 300 years. What's up, Rachel? Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, hey Jay, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. It's so providential that I popped into your space right then when you were talking about this, because Andrew talks all the time about how this is a multi-generational project. Like, Andrew does do more of the politics side of things, but he does it from the perspective of arguing worldviews. That's why he's so effective, and that's why he's very tough to beat in debates, is because he approaches it from that long-term worldview mindset. And he and I always talk about and think about how what we're doing right now is going to lay the groundwork for like what our grandchildren are going to carry forward.
Right.
We're not thinking that we're going to solve things in a 4-year political cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people do. I think our system makes people think,
yes,
oh, in 2 more years or 4 more years, we'll get the right person in office and everything's going to change.
Right.
And that is not how it works at all. And so Andrew's mission from the beginning has been to kind of do what the Fabian socialists did and re-infiltrate and retake the institutions. And that's a long march. That's something that even if we work another 40 years at, we're not going to see the completion of it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be our grandkids who will probably see the completion of it if we can achieve what we want to achieve. So it's about things like building churches and communities. It's about getting the Marxism stuff out of the universities and trying to correct the historical record on things, stuff like that. And those are like huge, scary goals. And they're very intimidating, and they take a lot. You know, they take years and years and years of consistently working at it and building coalitions and working with people to achieve that stuff. So yeah, I think that's how you avoid the black pill, is to realize that you're part of a really, really huge multi-generational project, but that's what it took for, you know, the subversives to get in and do what they've done. And they've been doing that for centuries upon centuries. So it's like, we have to kind of be able to do the same thing and have that same super long-term mindset, like our European ancestors who built the great cathedrals and the great things that took generations to build. We got to have that same mindset, and that's how you avoid the black pill.
Absolutely,
in my opinion. Yeah.
100% spot on. And in fact, you know, if you guys watched last night's stream, when we went very deep into the Rothschild's biography by Morton, we did the first half of the book. I highly recommend it. You guys become members and watch this talk here, because one of the first things that we noted was that they were, and again, we're not pro-Talmud, but we can learn from the people who were successful and who did this correctly. The reason that the Rothschilds understood the long-term generational approach was because they were looking to aspects of the Old Testament. I'm not advocating for their usury and all that, but I'm saying when Meyer Amschel Rothschild designed the crest that had the 5 arrows are his sons that he shoots like arrows into the world to go out and to conquer. Okay. He's getting that from David. David in the Psalms calls his sons arrows that he shoots out into the world. And so he's thinking generationally. The way that they were successful was to think, we're not going to build the Rothschild Empire in 1780. It's going to be built by 1850. Okay, so they're looking generations ahead, and that's the biblical attitude. That's why, and I'm not a fan of Calvinists or traditional Catholics, but the only groups that are going to go into the future are the Calvinists that have kids, the traditional Catholics that have kids, and the Orthodox. That's it. All the other and the Muslims, right? So that's the future battle, is the Muslims who are breeding, and then the Catholics and the Orthodox and the Calvinists. That's it. Nobody else is breeding. Everyone else is breeding themselves out. So that's how you conquer the future. And if you guys remember when we read the biography, as the Rothschilds gained basically control of France, they had a massive competitor. They almost lost to Credit Mobilier, which was Achille Fould and Perrier. So the two opponents of the Rothschilds combined together, and they copied all of the Rothschilds' tactics and techniques, but they failed. Why did they fail? As Morton says, they didn't have the perception to understand to have offspring who could run what they're doing in the future. So they had all these techniques and, shady tactics and tricks to game the market, or to, move money here and there or whatever. But they didn't think about generational offspring that could do the same thing and win 100 years from now. The biography even made that point. They're like, they missed they missed the big picture, which was having the offspring. Muja Tabe, what's up? So if you guys didn't watch the stream, and I thought this one might have been a little bit too spicy for, I saw some people were getting demonetized. So this one is there. So if you want it, I think it's worth it, but you guys need to become members. What's up, man? Unmute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, perfect. Hey, I had a quick question. I was doing some research regarding Christian Zionism, and when I was doing my research, I figured that this Irish pastor from the 1800s, Darby, he was the one who introduced dispensationalism into the
Yes, John Nelson Darby, correct.
Yeah. And then I did some research, and then I came across some letters from England, from the Puritans. So I wanted to ask you, does the dispensationalism come mainly from the Puritans' belief, or is that something different?
Technically, no. Really, it is Darby that's the originator of the 7 dispensations and all that kind of stuff. Although there were perhaps some preceding types of ideas like that. Some of the Puritans, even though they were Calvinists and were not really dispensationalists, some of them did have some imminent end times types of views. Some people even think that perhaps Jonathan Edwards could have been an influence in that direction. But strictly speaking, the 7 dispensations that we know of, like with John Hagee and all that stuff, that's strictly Darby, and then it's popularized by C.I. Scofield. Red Nismo, what's up, man? I think there were also perhaps a couple Anglican guys that had some weird speculative view, but they're very obscure, and they might have had some influence on Darby. But what's up, man? Redismo, last chance. Unmute or you're gone. All right. John Merton. By the way, guys, if you did miss the Freemason debate, it is up to almost 200,000 views, which kind of surprised me. I didn't actually think this debate would get that many views, but we did have a few. So when DJ started putting some of these clips on Instagram, they started getting 3, 4. I think one of them has 400,000 views. So some of these clips got some good traction from Instagram. And if you didn't see it, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to Chase and his buddy, but they did not perform very well. But John, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Hey, what's going on? Just real quick, thanks for everything, all your content, man. It's really helped on my journey, as I'm sure for plenty of people. You guys were talking about politics earlier with Rachel and everything, and it made me think the other day I was as I was consuming your content. I think it was 2 years ago you talked to Austin Peterson with Jim Bob hosting, and that was probably he was one of the worst ones.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yes, you're right. He's up there with Misfit Patriot. That is one of the worst debates. I actually forgot him.
I finished the Misfit Patriot one. I came across that guy 6 months ago, and I was like, wow, what a dork, to say the least. But yeah, Austin Peterson was a rough one, and part of that is because I think you said you remember it. I mean, you're older even
And
than
it's
me.
not just the theology.
The Ron Paul, like, libertarian area. I got into that for a while because I was disaffected by conservatism, because that's how I grew up.
Sure,
and
yeah, we all had that phase. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, right? And just watching that one from 2 years ago with him just made me realize, which really gets to my main question, which is like, psyop's kind of a strong word, but he doesn't even seem genuine. He seems like maybe just a normie. I don't know. It's one of those things. But,
Who, Austin?
What I've seen nowadays that really makes me pause. It's not black pill, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. Maybe it's just my algorithm in Instagram or something, but the popularity now of like the JQ, the noticing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see these like people that must be grifters because they're pious, they're religious, they're Christian, they're super right wing, and maybe, like I said, it's just my slice of life.
Well, dude, I mean, we've got Nala Ray over here trying to exorcise demons and talk in tongues and shit. So of course there's look, anytime there's a wave or a trend, I mean, just take Sneeko as an example, right? Sneeko was originally a MAGA kid. So the original early clips of Sneeko, he's like just this Trump goober MAGA guy. Then Sneeko was red pill, I'm against women, whatever he was, and then because I'm not sure he actually likes women, and then he was Muslim. So I'm just saying, Sneeko's an example of a person who rode 3 different waves of trends to build the audience that he has, and I mean, he's just a complete goober.
Yeah, and there's a few of those, and a lot of them are just flashes in the pan.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of staying power in the ones that are genuine. You said it recently. It might have been an old video I was watching of yours or a recent stream, but that people want the genuine stuff. They always have, but the trends kind of overtake. The reason Trump got popular was because the holdover, the thing that fizzled out with the Tea Party, that resurged with him. Like, I remember myself, kind of young at the time, thinking, I'm so tired of limp dicks like Jeb Bush, please clap, and all this fucking shit. And then he goes, I'm sorry if I'm swearing, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that on stream.
No, I encourage
he
it.
Goes on, there's 16 other Republicans, and he says things that everybody wants to hear. And I remember thinking, like, why don't more people do this? And you kind of do that, and you're very straightforward. So I think that's why you're popular. I think that's why you're gaining popularity. Sneeko, whatever, like the brazen red pill shows, like that'll be a flash in the pan. But I'm just worried about the grifters and people getting the wrong idea about like right-wing stuff, or not just right-wing, but obviously Christianity, because I see a lot of that more than even right-wing stuff. I didn't know if you've seen a lot of that, or if it's just me, is really my question.
No, I mean, again, I don't know what the solution is. There's no easy solutions, because there's really no way to not have, grifters and people just sort of flash in the pan and doing this. There's no way there's not much you can do. I mean, I think the only way really to sift that stuff out is just to give it time, because eventually a lot of these people kind of undo themselves. So if somebody is a bad act, and not always, but again, there's no perfect silver bullet solution, but if somebody's a bad actor, or they're a grifter, or they're a fed, or whatever, like, usually over time, they get the best of themselves. And so people that are bad actors usually are, in the Orthodox perspective, they're dominated by the passions. So whatever passions are dominating them, they're probably eventually going to cave to that. And I'm not trying to be self-righteous. Like, we all have passions, we all have vices.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, people that are like, if they're just there to make money, or they're just there to, be narcissistic social media weirdos, or if they're feds, like, there's going to be a period of time where they just kind of fizzle out, so.
Yeah, Ruslan comes to mind, but you're very right about that. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, but the other thing too is there's an infinite, what is it, P.T. Barnum, or it's either P.T. Barnum or Aleister Crowley said that, like,
sucker born every minute.
There's a sucker born every minute, and like there's an infinite supply of retards that will fund forever whatever the grift is, and so you'll just get it's like a Hydra's head, like just another grifter will pop up, or another lunatic will pop up. But there's not much, you can't really do anything, because you can't like stop people from doing it. But I think in the long term, authenticity wins out, because you can't stop every phony, but phonies eventually, and again, end up being their own worst enemies in many cases, if not, obviously it's not gonna be every case, but in many cases. Eclectic Prophet, what's up? I mean, we've gotten, the tables have turned so much that, like, the leftists are now speaking the same way that we speak. That's how crazy it is. Megyn Kelly speaks the way we speak. I don't agree with everything she says, but Anna Kasparian is having to say like stuff like that we say. I mean, the tables have turned vastly, at least in terms of what's popular. The establishment is still not on board totally, but anyway, what's up, man? Eclectic, you want to talk?
Yeah, I had a question for you, Jay. When you talk about the Eastern Orthodox and the versus the Oriental Orthodox, and the whole issue of the word homoousios or homoousios, do you break it down for me? Like I was listening to some Oriental.
That term
Orthodox
is not that term's not a problem between Orthodox and Orientals.
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. It seems like we are so close. What am I missing between the two groups?
Okay,
like,
now you're thinking of the term.
I don't understand it. And
okay, you're thinking of the term miaphysis or miaphysite. That's the term, not homoousios. Homoousios is out of Nicaea, and that's just referring to the fact that Christ is fully divine, has divinity equally as the Father has divinity, so he's not a lesser deity. Miaphysis is the term that St. Cyril used, and that becomes a very contentious term between Orthodox and Orientals, because it's a split at the time of Chalcedon. So there's no quick, simple answer to this one, and that's why on my channel we've been doing a long lecture series together with Kai and David Erhan, So I'm just going to say, if you come over to my channel and you click over here on the live streams, you can also use the little search function up there. If you type in Oriental Refuted, we are on our 5th installment of this. So part 5 is right here. And you should be able to find the rest of them through searching there. But I can't answer that question in one simple answer. It's a long one. JG, what's up? JG, you want to talk?
Yo, what's up, Jay?
What's on your mind?
So, I was checking out a clip of like an old live stream of yours, and you recommended like a documentary about Byzantium.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I really liked it. And
did you find it? Where is it at? Because it got pulled down.
It got pulled down, the documentary?
Yeah, a long time ago. I mean, it might exist somewhere, but maybe BitChute or something crazy like that.
Oh yeah, because I remember I found it.
Where'd you find it?
I think I found it on YouTube. I mean, I watched it a while ago, but I remember.
Like how long a while ago? Because maybe it came back with the recent lax policies.
I think it was like maybe a month ago.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's back on. I didn't know that.
Yeah, nice. Well, I was wondering, what's like your favorite aspect about Byzantium and like its like government, like operating society, like how it operated civilization, and where you think is like a good source to find out about Byzantium without like any historian biases on the Roman Empire, things like that.
Do you remember the name of that documentary? Because I'm trying to find it and it's not coming up right away. I don't think it's that one. I think I had like a Russian priest that was doing it.
Christian churches stand, but these great classical cities were 1,000.
No, this is some British dude. The one I'm thinking of, it has like a Russian, like an Orthodox priest narrating it or being interviewed. Let's try over here. Does anybody remember that documentary? I want to say it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Might be this one. Let's try this one.
If you're over 60 with money in an IRA or
Yes,
401k,
that's me,
a federal law
boomer.
that
I
just
am a
completed
boomer.
its rollout is the single biggest threat to your retirement you've never heard of. You dismiss the warnings.
Okay, whatever, dude.
In the most dramatic rival to the Bronze Age city-states of...
That's not a documentary. That's not it. Does anybody remember the name of that? Yeah, is that it? Eastern Roman Empire wrecked by the West? That sounds like what it was. That sounds familiar. That's it. You said I've watched it 10 times. Well, where is it at? Because it went away. That's it, though. You're right. Thank you to Jesse that found that in the chat. Let's see if it's over here. I knew it had it's like it doesn't say Byzantium in the title. That's why I couldn't find it. All right, I don't think it's over here. Yeah, they pulled that back when they were kicking off the Russia hoax stuff. This is it. Yeah, I think this is it.
This city was once called
Yeah, that's it. So here is this documentary. I didn't know it was back up. It was pulled down for forever. So I'll give it to you guys in the chat. It's called Christian Orthodox Eastern Roman Empire Wrecked by the West. That's a really good documentary. Favorite aspects? I mean, Byzantium was the most successful empire in history. So its early monetary policy was a solid gold standard. It had Christian Symphonia. I mean, that's the best aspect right there. A Christian empire. There we go. They did fall prey though to rabid nationalism, usury, coin clipping, all of those things that are the standard reasons that empires fall happen to characterize the fall of Byzantium. So Andy, what's up, man? Andy, what's up? Unmute. Last chance, Andy. All right, can y'all not hear me? We've had this happen all night tonight where people don't unmute. Marshall, what's up? Marshall, you there? People did say that spaces have been janky lately. All right, Jordan, what's up? Jordan, you want to unmute?
Hey Jay, I had a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Do you, would you happen to know about what is this? Hold on one second. It's called the James Webb Space Telescope.
I mean, I've heard of the James Webb Telescope, but I don't know much about it. No.
Oh, okay. I was talking with a friend of mine. He was telling me how it's supposed to. They like send it out into space, and they're like supposed to see 13 million years in the past to like.
Okay, I'm already skeptical already.
Yeah, it was. I already knew it was BS, but I just wanted to know if you heard anything about it, so you could like tell me anything further.
I don't know much about that. I've been focusing, honestly, guys, on so much like espionage type stuff. In fact, I'm gonna have to kind of break myself from these books because I'm loving these books. Like this book, Vatican Spies, has been awesome. I was loving the Rothschilds biography. It was way more exciting and full of intrigue than I expected. It was basically like reading Game of Thrones, but real. So I'm going to have to break myself from these to get back into preparing for the David Wood debate and the Trent Horn debate. So I'm going to have to make myself kind of get back into some of the theological stuff to do those debates. But I think we're going to have a good time debating Jake on, civilizational comparisons. So if you guys remember Andrew's masterfully done debate with Daniel Hakikachu, where he just really made Daniel look ridiculous with, the defending the inbreeding and whatnot. This will be a similar topic of debate, whether Islam or Christianity is better for civilization. So that's going to be fun. And that will be at the debate con that I have the tickets here for right here. If you guys want to get your tickets for that, again, that is July 25th in Dallas. So use the promo code 20 from Jay right there to get, I think you guys get $20 off at DebateCon. So we'll be debating that. So I'm about to make myself get back into some of these other topics that I've been kind of not focusing on lately. We went and did this big podcast, and as I told you guys, I thought for sure we were going to talk about Christian Zionism, espionage, geopolitics. So I was like super cramming like final exams because I wanted to do well, and that's not at all what we talked about, which is fine. Because if you're going on a show like that, you're not going to tell them, I will not speak on this. You're going to talk about whatever they want to talk about. So it was not what I expected, and I think you guys are also going to enjoy that discussion because it wasn't what you expect. John Cena, we got freaking wrestlers up in here, dude. Wrestling. What's up? You gonna wrestle with us, dude?
Yo.
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's good, man?
What's up?
I appreciate everything you do for the Orthodox community.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I know there's a lot of slow boys out here tonight, but you know how it be.
Is that it? What's on your mind? Is that all?
Nah. So I'm very blessed, and I happen to come from a very loving, supportive family.
Good.
That is unfortunately non-denominational.
Okay.
But I'm going to be visiting an Orthodox parish here pretty soon.
Okay.
And I've gotten some advice from your channel and Father Moses on like choosing between a Greek Orthodox and or a Russian Orthodox type church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't be part of this Russian church that's very close to this other Greek church though.
Okay.
And it's the largest Greek church in Houston, Texas. And since I'm a very young guy, I just got my license. I don't have a car yet. So my family, they're very loving. They're gonna visit with me to this church, and I'm just wondering.
Awesome.
if I should take them to this larger church just to like have a better effect on them, or if that's like in bad faith, I should just take them to
I
the
wouldn't worry about it.
smaller Russian church.
Take them to either one. I don't think it'll matter. Yeah, or try them both. Get them to go to both of them, and then you guys can, as a family, decide like which one is good, and if you want to maybe get them all to come back with you again. I would try both. Ethan, what's up? Because you never really know what. More so, the church itself matters over the jurisdiction, because there's problem churches everywhere. There's problem ROCOR churches, but it really just depends. You just got to check them all out. Ethan, what's up?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good.
So I've been going to an Orthodox church for a couple of years,
Mhm.
and I just had a question about apostolic succession.
Mhm.
I just wanted to figure out, I've heard you talk previously on debates about how the apostles' teaching was essentially inerrant. Like, obviously,
Sure.
there's a difference between moral inerrancy and inerrancy in teaching.
Well, usually that's called impeccability, right? So, in other words, sinlessness, right? Only Christ is impeccable or sinless in the Lord and the Theotokos. But so we don't think that Paul or Peter were impeccable; they weren't sinless, but their oral teaching and their written teachings are without error.
Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. I suppose, like, as far as apostolic succession goes, like, people sit in their seats, right? And they fill that sort of ecclesial role. But you wouldn't say that their teachings are inerrant. Like, does that just end after the apostles? Or
Well, no, it's inerrant and binding if it's an ecumenical council. And so, for example, St. Athanasius says, like, the teaching of Nicaea is the voice of the Holy Spirit, right? So,
yeah.
so no, only when the church speaks universally in that way would we say that it's a continuation of that sort of apostolic spirit of inerrancy. But it's not. Having authority isn't the same thing as being infallible, right? Because local bishops and local synods have authority, even though they're not infallible.
Yeah. So the synod itself has a sense of inerrancy, but like the apostles.
No, I wouldn't say a local
apostle had an inerrant teaching. Like,
I wouldn't say a local synod is inerrant. I think there have been plenty of local synods and bishops who've made all kinds of it.
I
It's
got
okay.
mixed up in the terminology.
It's fine.
I'm just getting used to it. So I meant to say a council, right? But I'm just asking, like, if an individual apostle is inerrant in their teaching, and then that transitions, right, into the people sitting in the apostles' seats through apostolic succession.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. This is more of a
like the role changes. I'm just trying.
Yeah. So like what? There's no more new public divine revelations. So there's no, once John the Apostle, who was the last one, died, there's no new public, like, I have a new revelation. The Holy Spirit told me that there will be a new book added to the Bible. It will be the next epistle. Like, there's no new public divine revelations, because it's a fixed body of doctrines that's the deposit of faith. So the successors to the apostles have authority. They have normative authority. And only when there's an ecumenical synod would we say that it's without error. So they have authority, but no, they're not apostles, like in the sense of like ongoing public divine revelation. And that's one of the things that sets, I think, our position off from Mormons or like Islam, right? If there's no new prophets and apostles, then those cults are immediately done. Like they're canceled out. That's also why in the 2nd century Montanus was condemned, right? Montanus taught that he was a new prophet who spoke by the Holy Spirit and could give new divine revelations to the church, and he was condemned. So no, apostolic succession doesn't mean continuing ongoing public divine revelation.
Okay, so the individual apostles that had a sort of inerrancy in their teaching, that is part of them sort of participating in the divine revelation.
Yeah, they had a unique office in the church to be the foundation stones of the church, right? So, like in the book of Revelation, you see that each of the 12 foundation stones are the apostles. So they were in a unique role, such that even though there are apostolic successors, there are no apostles in the church after John died.
Okay, and then the councils sort of, in a way, mimic the role of the apostles, but it's
Yeah.
just different.
Yeah, because it's not a new public revelation. It's solidifying and explaining what the revelation is that's already been handed down. So we're basically saying this is what the apostolic deposit meant. So there's a good analogy that people make to this where they say, if you think about a mine with like jewels and diamonds in it, what the ecumenical councils are doing is like going in and pulling out the jewels that are already there in the mine, but they're just sort of arranging and explaining, so to speak, the jewels. They're not creating new jewels or getting another mine involved. There's one mine with the jewels, and then we're just sort of mining out the jewels at the ecumenical council.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I think that definitely answers my question. I thought it might have something to do with the public revelation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that definitely ties some things together. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a natural question. I think a lot of us have had that same type of question. Roxanne, put on the red light. Roxanne.
I don't have to put on the red light.
I'm just joking. Don't put on the red light district. We're not in the red light district right now.
I'm not sure if this fits in the parameters of this discussion, so sorry, I'm a late joiner to the discussion.
It's pretty open, so we've talked about everything.
Okay. So somebody had mentioned jurisdictions in one of their questions. So a lot of my evangelical friends and Catholic friends kind of take this stance against orthodoxy because of, the North American and European cross-jurisdictional mess that's going on. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, again, like there have been many periods in church history where there were jurisdictional squabbles and messes. So I don't understand how that would be in any way like an argument for Protestantism or Catholicism. In fact, Roman Catholicism itself, if you think that the church of the first 1,000 years was Roman Catholic, well, guess what? It's full of examples of the same types of jurisdictional squabbles. So if jurisdictional squabbles themselves are a defeater, that would defeat Roman Catholicism being the true church in the first millennium. If you're a Protestant, I mean, the Protestant church is nothing but jurisdictional squabbles with all the thousands of sects. So I don't see how the problem of jurisdictional squabbles in Orthodoxy is in any way something that tells us that Protestantism is right. In fact, the ecumenical councils, a lot of the canons and decrees and whatnot, and squabbles in the councils are over things like jurisdictional disputes.
I appreciate that. You're reiterating a lot of my thoughts, but you can put it a lot more eloquently than I can, apparently.
Well, thank you. Perhaps I'm eloquent. I don't know. Maybe sometimes I'm a little bit eloquent, but usually I feel like I'm not being as clear and well-spoken as I should be. So, but thank you, Roxanne. Put off the red light, Roxanne. Boycott. What's up, dude? All right, we're going to get down to the last couple of questions here, guys. Thank you for being generous tonight. I do have a lot of super chats to get through. So if you want to get your super chats in, last questions, last comments, feel free to do so, but go ahead and do it now because we're going to start with super chats here in a moment. What's up, Boycott?
What up, bro?
What's on your mind?
I'm Catholic, but I've been wanting to research a lot more on the Eucharist. Could you recommend me any books or early church fathers to read on the Eucharist?
I mean, most of the first several centuries, you don't have like a treatise just on the Eucharist. You usually have, it being mentioned in passing, or maybe the first sort of apologetic usage of it is St. Cyril, when he's arguing against Nestorius. The Council of Ephesus utilizes the real presence as a way to argue against Nestorianism. So you'll find that in the Anathemas of Ephesus. You'll find that in kind of scattered around in St. Cyril's writings, like on the unity of Christ or the two letters to Sixcensus. But I mean, you've got references to the Eucharist in St. Justin Martyr's writings. You've got it in most of the church fathers at some point they'll reference it. So there's that sort of apologetic aspect of it, of proving the real presence. You've got St. John of Damascus, in the first sort of systematic theology on the Orthodox faith in the 700s. He writes about all the aspects of the Christian faith, including baptism and the real presence in the Eucharist. So that might be the most substantial first millennium references. I mean, you'll find it in the catechesis, the catechetical lectures of Saint Cyril of Jerusalem. Saint Cyprian, references the Eucharist in quite a few places on the unity of the church, I think references it. So, I mean, there's not like one patristic writing just on the Eucharist, because those tend to be later disputes that occur. So it's just sort of sprinkled around. But the Orthodox conception of the Eucharist, it ends up being a little bit different than the Roman Catholic one, because, for example, we have the normative practice of Paedo communion, and the West did the same thing up until the Carolinian period, where that changes. So the West, through the influence of the court theologians of Charlemagne, begins to not give infants communion in the 700s. So there is a bit of divergence between Orthodox and the West on the Eucharist. Octavia, what's up? But thank you for that question.
No, you can't mute those.
What's up, dude? Unmute. Talking to you, dude. Octavia, do you want to talk or not?
Yes, I do. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I did have the mute on. Apologize.
It's okay.
So my husband and I were listening in from the Houston area. We live in Richmond, Rosenberg.
Okay.
And we heard your caller that's interested in visiting a parish in the Houston area.
Okay.
And I would say my husband and I both think that the Antiochian churches in the Houston area seem to be very seeker-friendly, bursting at the seams.
I know that there's a great one, Father Julian, who's a good friend of ours, and he's...
Oh, Father Julian?
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, so he's the Romanian priest, Holy Protection.
But he's at an Antiochian church.
Right now?
Well, I mean, unless he's moved in the last year or two, his church is, he's a Romanian priest, but he's at an Antiochian church.
Oh, okay. Because I figured he was at Holy Protection, which is, anyway. So, but
we can look and see. Go ahead.
Either St. George or St. Joseph would be the most highly recommended in the Houston area, I think.
Okay.
Beautiful liturgies, like otherworldly.
Yeah.
That's probably why I would say that, because the liturgies just blow your mind.
They're beautiful and very welcoming. I worked at St. George for like 7 years.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you so much, you guys. So if that guy's still listening, there's some Texas recommendations there. Let me see where the Father Julian I know is, and he's a very humble, sweet man. This is him here, yes. So Holy Protection, this is it, and this is Antiochian as far as I know, because I've been here many times. Father Hears is here. Oh, maybe they're not under the Antiochian anymore. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe they were always Romanian. I thought they were Antiochian this whole time. In 2003, they organized the Romanian Orthodox community in Austin. Then they moved to Houston. Okay, I'm just wrong. It was always, I guess, Romanian. But this is also a great church that I've been to many times, and I didn't know Father Hears was there, but this is where he is now. Confused, what's up? Yeah, I went to the Sophia conference at this church twice. So, but I would just say check them all out, dude. Check all these out and find the one that you like the best. Confused, what's up?
What's up? I had I guess 2 questions. So I don't know how familiar you are, and this may be a question better for the Church of the Eternal Logos, but do you know if there's any prophecies from saints about AI, like any kind of, I don't know, anything like that?
I don't. That would be a good question for the prophecy bros. Yeah, you would have to ask them. That's an issue. It's a good question, but I do not know if there is. Okay, last one is Athanasius. What's up, man?
Hey Jay, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I just had a question on geopolitics. I was wondering if you're willing to take that.
Sure.
So I was reading up on post World War I Germany, and I was reading up on the Dawes Plan, and their plan of keeping Germany in perpetual
Debt and cucking them. Yes.
And it seemed like that a lot of the bankers and industrialists went in after that and started buying up the capital of the German industry and using that and they went in and funded the Tiny Mustache Man and his party, and that's why I'm sort of getting lost, and I was wondering where to go from there.
All right, so I got distracted by the chat. So Dawes Plan, and they're keeping Germany in debt slavery, and then what was the next part you said?
And during that debt slavery, a bunch of venture capitalists
Yeah.
and industrialists went in and started buying up and funding the Tiny Mustache Man party.
Yes.
And was promoting him to basically be their puppet.
Yeah, they're building them up. Yeah, and there's several. They're called cartels that were involved in doing that. I forget the name of all the different ones, but the book that's probably the best for what you're looking for that's out right now is the one, and I've only read like 3 chapters of it, but it's pretty good so far. And this is kind of an updated version of Anthony Sutton's books about the funding. It's called 2 World Wars. Are you familiar with the book I'm talking about?
I think I've heard you mention it a couple times.
And this whole book is on that specific question that you're asking right there. So basically the whole book is on the period that you're asking about. And I've only read 3 chapters of it, so I can't say that I haven't read the whole book yet, but it's like 800 pages. So it's called 2 World Wars and Tiny Mustache Man by Jim McGregor and John O'Dowd. So, and then let me think for a second, because something I was reading not too long ago. Oh, the Old Boys book had 2 or 3 chapters that talked about the industrialists that were building up the German war machine. I just can't remember all of the names of the cartels and the corporations, but it's like
JP Morgan was one of them.
Yeah, the 2 World Wars book has quite a bit about JP Morgan, but the Old Boys book, okay, there's the Reichsbank, and it's the Reichsbank that's originally what sets up the Bank for National Settlements. So McKittrick and Allen Dulles, together with the Reichsbank, set up the Bank for National Settlements, and the money that's funding Tiny Mustache Man is is it like Fritz Thyssen? Yes, that's one of the industrialists. I think that's right.
Yeah, because I had found, I was scrolling on Yandex and I just trying to look up on this, and I had come up on a website that I thought did a pretty good breakdown of what their plan was.
Yep, this is it. So one of the key industrialists was Fritz Thyssen, Thyssen, but there's also these other cartels like German steel, coal, these kinds of things that were IG Farben, or that's probably everybody probably knows of that one, but it's not just bankers, it's also the industrialists. But that's where you want to look for those questions. But also I think Sutton does address that too in his book. I'm just not remembering all the industries off the top of my head. Redoubt, what's up? I'm sure plenty of people in my chat will remember all that stuff. What's up, man? Unmute.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jay, I just got an epistemic question for you. I've heard you say before that you do believe in epistemic certitude, but I'm just trying to understand, I guess, how that's possible.
Why would that seem strange to say it's possible to have certitude?
Well, how do you know that you know anything with certainty?
I mean, I think that the strongest level of certitude that could be had would be something like a transcendental category because they're necessary to have knowledge at all. So, whatever level of certitude we want to ascribe to humans being possible to possibly have, I would say something like a precondition for knowledge, like the laws of logic or something like that, would be the highest degree of possible certitude because they underlie any type of knowledge or knowledge claim.
But don't you have to rely on kind of your experience and your usage of things like logic to have that level of certitude? Like I
Yeah,
agree
but that's
with
a
you. I think that is the
category
highest
error.
level, but that
Yes,
seems like
but that's a category error because just because I'm using it doesn't mean that it's this that in other words, I have to use word. This is where circularity or recursion comes in. Like I have to use words to define words, right? So I have
I
to.
think you're making my point though. Like
Mhm.
it seems like you have to resort to those sorts of things. That's why we think that logic, we feel
Yeah, but
certain
just
in our usage
because.
of logic. We feel certain that logic
Yeah,
is
but
a valid.
I know where you're going with this because I've had this discussion with FDA like a year ago. We had a long like a one whole night where we talked about this, and the fact that I'm using the laws of logic throughout like my life or whatever, it doesn't follow from the fact that I'm using it that it can't also be a precondition or a transcendental category. So it's a category error to think that because I'm using the thing that it's not also a precondition.
No, I guess I don't see them as being mutually exclusive either. I'm still just trying to understand how you bridge the epistemic gap, right? Just because something can be true objectively doesn't mean that you can know that it's true objectively. And that it seems like there's always going to be that gap between the epistemology and the ontology.
But well, if you mean it in the sense of like if you did like so if you read the Russ Mannion paper, he makes this point about how you can't be a strict Kantian and like get away with thinking that the transcendental categories that are in your mind are necessarily also in the world because you don't know if the things that logically make sense also necessarily ontologically make sense. So if that's the challenge that you're making, I would actually agree with that. And that's precisely why I don't make like secular versions of the argument or Kant's argument, because I'm saying that the Christian worldview is actually the presupposition that undergirds transcendental categories. So I would affirm that that's a good critique of a Kantian type of position. But I'm actually arguing that, well, to have knowledge at all would require first God's existence, which grounds transcendental categories, and then those ground the normal sort of first order knowledge that you have. So I would agree with that. But if the alternative is skepticism, then I think we're at a dead end. So if you want to say, well, how do you get out of the skeptical dilemma? And I would just say, well, if the option is Christianity or the skeptical dilemma, then I don't really have to do anything because if you're a skeptic, then you basically conceded that there's no argument against Christianity.
Right. Can we come back to skepticism in just a second? So going back to the Kantian gap, I get that is an issue for secular approaches to tag, but I guess I'm still not seeing how the God presupposition fixes that. It still seems like there's a question of how do you know? Like I agree with you that God is the best explanation for these things. I'm just struggling to see how you can have epistemic certitude in that fact. And I don't know.
Well, again, like
that helps you more
if
than
by
a secular one.
yeah, if by absolute certitude we mean something like what Descartes was after, then I think most people and most philosophers would just simply say that's really not even attainable because the way Descartes like structures that level of certitude is almost like you'd have to be God to have that level of certitude. So that's why I say it.
Be in agreement there then.
The way I say it is like, well, look, whatever the highest degree of certitude is for humans to possibly have, to me, it seems like the most convincing thing would be transcendental categories. It wouldn't be obviously empirical knowledge because empirical knowledge relies on the categories to be the case to even have that. So beyond that, I don't know what to say. I mean, I would say also you take that question to FDA because he's probably a lot better at answering that question than me.
Well, I think what you said makes a lot more sense than some of what kind of the impression I'd gotten from what you'd said before. So that I think that we're probably more aligned there than I had previously thought. Can I just ask you about the skepticism thing, if it's okay? I want to pick your brain on that a little bit more.
Well, I'm really tired, but go ahead. I'm drinking. Let me drink some more coffee. Hold on.
Sorry, I'll let you get to super chats here. Real quick, I've heard you run the skepticism is self-refuting argument a few times, and I just I struggle to see it as being sound. So if someone says that they can't know anything certainly, with perfect certainty, and you say, well, how do you know that? And they say, I don't. That doesn't seem to be a contradiction. That seems to be totally consistent. And you can say that they lost the argument at that point, but that seems to require that in order to argue, you have to have perfect epistemic certitude, which doesn't seem like a valid claim. It seems like you can argue things. You can still argue even if you're not certain about something.
Well, again, the level of certitude that's needed to say, I mean, the problem is that you're making a universal claim. No one can have certitude about anything. So rather,
No, I'm not though.
but you are. So
how
are you
saying I don't know that? I'm just assuming that.
Well, it's not just an assumption though, because it is a knowledge claim. So you're kind of like trying to skirt the level of, I mean, it has a universal quantifier there. So it's like saying, it's like what happens in the JF debate where he's like,
sure, but with a non,
yeah, but that's sophistry. But it'd be like saying that all X are Y except in cases where they're not. I mean, it's basically ends up being like a meaningless statement.
I don't think that.
Well, I mean, do you think that makes sense? Like all X are Y except when they're not? Because that's no different than saying that for all knowledge instances, no one has certainty except when they do.
Well, no. See, I agree. That formulation would be what you're saying, but that's not what.
Okay. Let's put it like this. Let's put it like this. What if I said to you, let's say you make the argument that there's no how would you phrase it? And then I'm going to give you a retort that I think refutes it. Go ahead. How would you phrase it?
If I said, let's say I'm a skeptic and I say, I can't know anything, or I do not know anything with certainty. I'll just say it like that. Not I can't, but I do not know anything with certainty as far as I know. And even that fact I could be, I guess, uncertain of, but it's still, I don't know.
Okay. So even if you restrict it to you as an individual, I mean, technically speaking, even an individual statement of fact can still be universally quantified, because you could say, well, is it universally the case that you have no knowledge? Like in
all, but couldn't I just run the it seems to me and then it always be true, right? Like it seems to me that I do not know anything.
All right, then I think the best defeater would be that if you're affirming skepticism, then you also have to grant that the negation is just as valid. So I can just negate your statement and it's just as valid as your statement. So at that point, I would say it's a defeater.
But right, this is where I would go as well. The thing there, though, is that is if you are purely being syllogistic, then I agree. Pretty much all properly basic beliefs on if you are limiting yourself to pure logic are going to be arbitrary. But that's where I think that you have to infuse your deductions with induction. That's why I think experience is, while it's not reliable for certitude, it is kind of the best tool that we have to make our properly basic beliefs non-arbitrary. So I think
how are you
experience on your show, you always kind of push back and say they're being naively empiricists, but I think you're kind of jumping to the extreme of
how are you making
reference to sense data is naive.
How are you making the properly basic beliefs any more certain or probabilistic by that line of argumentation if you're admitting that the negation is just as valid and just as possible?
Well, that's where you have to rely on the shared experience to get to the things
But
that
why,
you
but
know,
that's our,
the
why is that
foundational
not,
beliefs that
why is
seem
that not
most
arbitrary?
likely.
But why is that additional idea not also just arbitrary?
Well, again, it's arbitrary in a non-experiential way, but once you include experience,
Yeah, but that's, you're missing
and
it.
I can both agree.
Why
that
am I
belief
supposed to
that there is
think,
an outside world.
yeah, but you're begging the question, why am I supposed to think that you tacking
I'm not.
on the additional idea of going by experience is any more convincing?
Well, again, real quick, begging the question wouldn't apply here because I'm including induction. Begging the question would only apply if
Why
I was
am I
being
supposed to
purely
think, why am I
deductive.
supposed to think that including induction gets you in any better position? If I can
Begging the
always,
question is assuming the conclusion
no,
in
no,
a syllogism.
listen, if I can always just equally, in a equally valid way, state a negation to any position that you put forward, then we're not getting anywhere, and you're surrendering the point. Because if skepticism is true, then the negation is also possibly true as well, and there's no way to delineate between them.
I understand what you're saying, Jay, but that's only true in a non-experiential way. Once you include experience, I agree.
But why am I
Experience
supposed to
doesn't give
think
you a certain
that?
way
Why?
to knowledge, but
Why am I supposed to
gives us
think
some
that?
common ground.
You're missing the point. Why am I supposed to think that I should trust some form of experiential common ground? Why?
Well, let me give you an example. If
You're a
someone said
skeptic.
that
But hold
nothing
on.
exists,
You're not being a skeptic consistently, because if you're a skeptic, this additional idea must also fall under the umbrella of skepticism. So why am I supposed to think that this adds anything to the position?
all right, let me run this by you real quick. So if I said that nothing exists, that could be an arbitrary starting point that is just as valid as something exists. But if you and me sat across the table, right, but by what you just said, like the negation could also be just as true if everything's arbitrary, right? So purely deductively, both those statements could be equally valid. But if you and I are sitting across the table, we're going to be able to agree on one of those most likely and not the other, right? The fact
But that doesn't matter.
something
Why?
could
Again,
exist.
it's begging the question, why am I supposed to think that because we agree on something that has any value in regard to making something less skeptical or more properly basic?
Well, it only doesn't have value if your goal is pure epistemic certitude in like a Descartes
Again,
sense.
like,
But if you're willing to, again,
but you're
my
missing the
argument is
point that
experience isn't perfect, but it's the best tool that we have
what
for
says who? But
doing
again,
the
you're
inductions
missing
to
the
get to our
point.
properly basic beliefs.
You're missing the point, because every time you just try to explain and add these new evidences or things that are stacked onto it, it's like, but why am I supposed to think that that actually helps or contributes to this? And then you say, because there's nothing else, and as we're just humans, and like, those are all, that's why I'm saying it's arbitrary. It's like, it's missing the epistemic point of like, but why should I think that that is getting me in a better position? And if every time you answer, it's like, then you're moving out of the ground of the skepticism, because now you're starting to do like, well, clearly this is the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, but clearly is different from, I'm epistemically certain.
Well, I mean,
It's-
but what
it-
is it?
again,
And so
it seems clear to me, but that's the best. That's the best I can do.
well, then if it's, but then how do you know it's a shared? Then how do you know it's a
like a
shared?
guardian in the bosom.
Then how do you know it's a shared experience?
I don't. Not with epistemic certitude. Yeah, you have to take the leap of faith.
Okay, but then but the negation is just as valid as the affirmation.
In a purely deductive sense, you're correct, but that's why you have to take the leap of faith to say, okay, one seems more true to me, and I'm going to take.
But
the leap
again,
of faith to assume
I
that
just
that it
I
is
don't
objectively more true, right? The ontology,
I appreciate
it. Is
it.
True. The epistemology,
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
it's true.
All right.
And then,
Yeah, we're done. I just, that's good enough. I mean, we're just gonna disagree there. You could take that question to FDA. I got to read the super chats. I got to pee, dude. Like, I can't sit here. I got to read the super chats and go to the bathroom. But yeah, I'm not finding that line of reasoning very convincing. So, Volpes, I would be down for you to do a villain analysis of Dagoth from Elder Scrolls. He's sympathetic and noble at times. I think I tried starting to play that one time, and I realized it was going to take up like 80 hours, 100 hours of my life. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Faith can move mountains, $10. What is your favorite? Who's your favorite Bible writer and Old Testament writer? I mean, I believe that Jesus wrote the whole Bible, right? It's the Spirit of Christ writing it all. So I don't really have like favorite Bible writers. I don't know. It's a tough question. Host of Odin, $20. Hey man, I got more serious questions when you got time than this X space. I mean, okay, but like X spaces are really where we do most of the Q&A. So try to, call in and ask your question there if you want. Intel Wild, $5. Jay, wreck all the degenerate worldviews. Okay, I will. Kyle, $5. How do you interpret the exclusive salvation in the Orthodox spiritual texts? I mean, we always say that the Orthodox Church is the one true church. This makes me scared. I feel like I have to be a monk. Well, I mean, there's plenty of monks that aren't saved. So, and many monks will say that there's plenty of laity who live better lives than monastics. So, Intel, $5. Have you heard Tom McDonald's song "Remember Who You Are"? Isn't that a white rapper? No, I'm not. I'm not listening to a lot of white rappers, honestly. I don't really listen to rap music at all, except for some kind of as a joke. But Zane, $20. According to the book called Tesla, the Spiritual Character, he did carry on his faith and considered himself a Christian. Well, again, I mean, maybe he fell into theosophy for a time period and maybe he came back to Orthodoxy. I don't know. He was very close to many spiritual fathers and participated in the liturgy. That's good. I definitely want to hope for the best. I hope so. ROC, $10. Jay, is there a connection with the term Ark and Noah's Ark and the Ark of the Covenant? I mean, an Ark is a box. So in that sense, the Ark of the Covenant's a box and the church is the Ark of salvation. So, I mean, loosely speaking, but they're different boxes. Ortho, the worst debate you had was with Matthew DJB. I don't even remember who that is. Ryan, $5. Don't vouch for other things, but BLKSHP has a good video on Job. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Rush Zell, $20. I am new to apologetics. I want to understand the papacy from the Orthodox perspective. What's the book? Well, the best book on this is pretty extensive, but it's the Szyszynski book, Orthodoxy and the Papacy. That one's really good. And it's very scholarly. And then if you want a more readable Orthodox apologetics book, it would be the Michael Welton book, Two Paths. Ryan says for $10, Reddit poll brain people tend to err with a recency bias, and thus they get discouraged that the 4 to 8 year cycle isn't achieving their goals immediately. They cannot think 30, 50, and 100 years is called Lindy effect. This is exactly what Rachel was getting at, was the 4 year, 2 year political cycle is actually just a bunch of social engineering to make you think that, the next 2 years, we're going to get our guy in there. We're going to throw the rotten apples out. I mean, the whole idea of these cycles is kind of stupid, but Anonymous, $10. All hail Byzantium. Explain why you don't recommend Schmeeman. I've explained it in multiple live streams in the last couple of weeks. So I would just say go check those out. Derek, $10. I was atheist agnostic. Thank you to Online Orthodoxy. I was made aware of it and finally went to Divine Liturgy. I went today. Glory to God. That's great, dude. Glad to hear that, man. Jesse Roberts, Market Maker, $40. Jay, unblock my channel. I got blocked because I was a slow boy. I didn't know about Orthodoxy. I took some time. I'm a subscriber, premium. My account, Ways of the Jedi. Okay, are you talking about on YouTube or are you talking about on X? Because we all know that I'm very quick to block retards, but I appreciate you repenting from your retardation. We always accept repentant slow boys. So, what's your channel? Ways of the Jedi. But I don't know if you mean on, you guys got to tell me what you mean. Do you mean, so I guess you don't mean on Twitter. I mean on YouTube. ways of the Jedi. You're not blocked, dude, so I don't know what you're talking about. Greek Bob Wigger, $10. Jay, I was looking at Orthodox for last year. I wanted to know what type of things I should read. How should I balance that with scripture? I mean, get Orthodox Study Bible, read the notes, get, Palmazansky's Orthodox Dogmatic Theology, get Losky's Mystical Theology of Eastern Church. Those are good places to start. HD Digitals, $10. You have to debate Gavin Orland. Guys, it ain't me that's not debating. It's all of them that ran and blocked and won't debate. He is very deceptive. He's hurting people and lies about orthodoxy. I mean, I've asked multiple times, so like, Pap, $3. Do you have any thoughts on ketamine therapy? I don't know anything about it. I've never done ketamine. I remember Theo Vaughn talking about doing a ketamine therapy thing, and to me, it sounded hellacious. It did not sound like a fun drug experience. So, but maybe it's supposed to be hellacious. I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but I don't know anything about it. Potbelly, $10. I'm watching Boomer debate Alex. Oh, you talking about Kelly? What's his name? Now I see why the divorce rates amongst Protestants are high. They really have no idea about actually submitting to authority, and this then bleeds down into the family. That's interesting. I never thought about that connection, but that makes sense. They only stick around as long as it fits their ideas of Christianity. That makes sense. Il Duce, $5. I saw you with Deacon Seraphim. Did you go to St. Seraphim Cathedral in Dallas? Well, we met him with Rachel and Andrew and Peugeot, and we went to dinner. But no, I was not at the OCA Cathedral that time. However, I have been to that OCA Cathedral in the past. I don't know where I will be going to church when we go to Dallas. I don't know. JR, $10. Scrubbed away, but you see Kurt scrubbed away. Did you see Kurt Metzger ambushed on Break Rules podcast? Ambushed? I don't know anything about this. What is even Break the Rules? I don't know what that is. Dude, I can't type with these glasses on, but I can't see if I take them off. It's a catch-22, dog. Break the Rules, Kurt. See, I can't even type with this freaking. How is he ambushed? What does that even? How do you get ambushed on a podcast? This?
If we're talking about somebody like Lex Friedman, right? He was mentioned in the beginning of this episode. So our good friend Ben Avery, who I know you know.
Yeah, I know Ben real well.
He was at dinner with Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan and Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry. The rest of your question says, if I recall, it was an Atlantic Council guy, and he brings up the Ukraine. They're not dummies, but I actually thought Kurt won it. Oh, so they end up in a debate over the Ukraine?
Dylan, and he got to be a witness to Lex Friedman spouting love for Vladimir Putin and all
Ben
this
told me
Russian
that a long time
propaganda.
ago.
Yeah.
Ben told me that.
So, but the reason why I'm saying this is because, when you have people, for example, like Mike David of Red Bar, warning Joe, telling Joe that, Joe, you got to be careful of the people that are around you, the guy who sells you your bow and arrow.
Yeah, Lev Polyakov, thank you for the 20, says, Kurt Metzger mentioned on my show a theory.
Oh, this guy, he tried to debate me. I forgot about this guy. This Lev guy, he tried to have me on a long time ago. And he's like, isn't he into Gnosticism? I want to say that he follows, he was buddies with Cernovich, and he's like into Gnostic stuff. Is that why Gnostic Informant is coming up? Probably. But what is he, like a pro-Ukraine dude? Anyway, no, I don't know anything about this.
I don't think they're even curious about or interested in anything that's being talked about on the other side. Because here's the thing. Imagine if one day not you, but somebody else were to come up with, some explanation as to why actually we should support Ukraine, they'd lose all their followers. They'd lose all their friends.
Buddy, it still says on my live stream, if I minimize Ukraine, they'll steal my money. Google will steal my money. So, no, I'm not the mainstream position. I'm the fringe. So you're acting as if throwing our money down that toilet hole is the fringe. No,
the fringe is very popular. It's extremely popular. You know why?
And why?
Tank universe. Not to have like some kind of a dogpiling effect on the guy, but to be able to have Kurt bring up all the extreme out there fringe things that he likes to talk about and be able to properly dissect it.
I guess you're not being properly Muslim. So anyway, I was just saying I don't know anything about this podcast, or I think these dudes are Gnostic dudes or something. So the question was from Emilion. Today we celebrate Saints Vidovdan as Serbs after the Battle of Kosovo against the Ottomans. Yep. So that's a good thing to remember. We are not pro-Islam. AJ, $5. What's up, blood? What's up, dude? D Jules, don't stop, get it. Slowboy Whiteboard says, tell him about the Black Saints. That's the only way you'll get a black dude to look at Orthodoxy. That's funny. Just at $5. Will be saved is not past tense. That guy's a slow boy. He's some of the first guy that called in when we had that debate. Nobody, $5. Would you read about Joseph Smith if I sent you a copy? No, I'm not. I know enough about Joseph Smith that there's no new facts that you're going to bring into the scenario that's going to like make me rethink anything to do with Joseph Smith. So, but I appreciate your $5 super chat. Send this dude to the PP explosion chamber. Crown says, you're talking about this was the first guy that called in. Let's see. If you love your life and you testify before God that you do not love him. Oh, we read that earlier. Excuse me. Phantasm gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Zach says for $30. Jay, I'm excited to see Chris Williamson ask about the Pope of the Future's biohacking routine. Is that transhumanist dude? Who's Chris Williamson? Do what you do and stay on top of the eDiva leaderboards when Modern Wisdom Pod drops tomorrow. Oh, you're making the joke that the big podcast I went on was that transhumanist guy. It is not that transhumanist guy's podcast, but I got you. Isn't that who that is? Is that Chris Williamson's the guy that's going to live forever or whatever? I'm trying to find where To Thee We Sing, gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Volpes says, let's buy you a new spit bottle for science. Well, I ran out of Alps in here, so I'm wanting to go get one. Midnight Monastery. Jay, in your studies, what do you think about Rudolf Steiner and Waldorf? I mean, I'm not into anthroposophy or theosophy, dude. That stuff's all silly. It's the beginnings of the whole New Age movement. Von Wallen, $5. Did you ever come across the idea that Dr. Stephen Greer is Mossad? I mean, I think all the channeling alien stuff is retarded, but I don't know about being Mossad. I mean, why would that be the connection? He was on Danny Jones, and they had Museum of Tarot. I mean, Yuri Geller was in the IDF, so that makes sense. But I don't know what about Stephen Greer just comes off to me as full of shit. But let's see, Jay Foley, $10. Have you ever been to Greenville, South Carolina? Yes, I have. Converting from Southern Baptist Orthodoxy. Have you been to the churches? I mean, I got married in the OCA St. John the Latter Church, so that's the one I got married at. Kevin Roos, $5. I don't know about the other Orthodox churches there. It's the only one I've ever been to. Have you read St. Cyril's commentary on the Old Testament? I don't think I have. It seems like there would be good typology there. Yeah, it seems like there would be. I just forgot I had a St. Cyril book, by the way, the other day. I found. Totally forgot I even had it. I was like, when did I even get this book? Rock'em Sock'em, $20. Second attempt. What about the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of Noah? Yeah, I just referenced it. I actually think Jim Bob is tall. You can look at a picture of me with Jim Bob. He's not taller than me. Like, we're sitting at an angle in the whatever podcast studio. I'm 6'2", dude. Jim Bob is not. I mean, I'm not dissing Jim Bob, but if you go on my Instagram, there's a picture of me standing with Jim Bob. I mean, but Jim Bob's not super short, but I'm pretty sure from memory I'm at least a few inches taller than Jim Bob. Anti-retard, $20. Good night, Unc. I got to get up. Appreciate that, dude. Zane, $5. Matt Dillamonkey was one of the worst. He wasn't the worst debater, though, that I've debated. It's got to be Misfit Patriot. Has to be the worst. Derek. No, we did that one. Almi Preldilzik, $12. Large Hadron Collider is shutting down. They will reopen it in 2030. Data Center Beast System. Human emotions. Thoughts as actions as data. Algorithm control, end of free will. Well, that sounds a little out there, but I'm sure that ultimately that's what they want, is total control. Sour Fruit. Did you see Andrew Wilson's Legion of Coom? I saw the first one. I didn't see the new one. I saw he did post a new one, but I've not seen that yet. Zane. No, we did that. Anti-retard. We did that. Potbelly Goblin King, $10. I'm watching that Boomer debate, Alex. No, we did that. All right, I think I got all the super chats. Discord says, in loving memory of Ace, keep your animals close. They're innocent. So somebody's pet passed away. Sorry to hear that. Ace. Was Ace a dog or was he a slow loris? What kind of pet was he? Anyway, everybody, thank you so much. A lot of fun tonight.